In 2024 in Sioux City, the sunlight poured down softly. Wanyu walked into the warm home she hadn't visited in a long time. The familiar scenery was still as beautiful as a picture, making her feel totally relaxed. Right at this moment, her best friend Shanyu called to rush her for her manuscript. While she was stuck for ideas, Wanyu's eyes suddenly bumped into her own diary. Inspiration instantly flowed, and she decided to pick up her pen to rewrite that teenage love story from back then. Looking back at her college years, as the New Year's Eve bell was about to ring, Wanyu felt both nervous and excited, quietly standing next to Susong, the boy she had a secret crush on, to watch the bright fireworks together. Right at that moment, Susong suddenly held her hand. Her heart was super thrilled, and her cheeks turned bright red. But right after that, he coldly dropped the line, "I held the wrong hand." Her heart instantly turned ice cold, like falling into a freezing cave. While feeling heartbroken, she secretly felt jealous of the girl who was truly in his heart. Actually, after all these years, Wanyu still couldn't forget that boy. She had to trick herself in her novel, using the excuse he only pretended to hold the wrong hand to soothe her own hurting heart. The next day, Shanyu read Wanyu's novel with passion. She was deeply moved by the delicate feelings of a secret crush, feeling like she was drowning in that beautiful teenage romance and couldn't get out. At the same time, Wanyu was being pushed by her mom to go on a blind date, making her feel both helpless and annoyed. Meanwhile, Susong returned to the law firm and ran into a mess between a landlady and a foreign tenant. The thing was, this tenant didn't pay the rent, the landlady couldn't get the money after asking many times, so she had to cut off the water and power, but who knew she would get sued back by the tenant? Susong stepped up to handle it. He carefully checked the contract, using his sharpness and professional legal knowledge to find the loophole, getting justice back for the landlady. Seeing that he was losing, the tenant had to step up and ask for a settlement, and the mess was solved smoothly. Wanyu's novel quickly blew up on the internet, getting tons of love from readers. But at the same time, she got caught up in a plagiarism scandal. Facing questions from the media, she freaked out completely, not knowing how to explain, so she chose to hide away to find some peace. Later she found out that her New Year's Eve plot was shockingly identical to another novel named Really Wanna Bite Your Ear, and the main character in that story was actually a guy. That night, she was a mess, and her mood hit rock bottom. On top of that, her mom gave her an ultimatum, forcing her to go on a blind date tomorrow, which made her even more stressed. The next day, feeling anxious, Wanyu went to a coffee shop. Lu Mao, a lawyer from Zhikuan law firm, warmly welcomed her and shared some small talk about work to help her stress less. Seeing this, Wanyu took the chance to tell Lu Mao about the plagiarism drama, to ask him for a way out. After hearing it, Lu Mao pointed straight to the problem, advising her not to rush, because right now trying to cover it up only makes it worse, and speaking up to explain would only put her in a passive spot. Actually, the author of Really Want to Bite Your Ear was Susong. Years ago, when moving houses, she accidentally found the secret of her older brother, Susong. It turned out that night, her brother purposely held the hand of the girl he had crush on. After Zhao analyzed it, Susong started to suspect that when Xiang was her brother's girl from back then, otherwise how could things be such a coincidence? This guess made the young girl both shocked and super excited. Through connections, Zhao finally investigated and found out when Xiang's real name was Wanyu. That night, Susong and Zhao sneaked back to their old school, finding the wall that kept so many memories. Here, they found the words written in pinyin on the wall. Carefully translating it, they both finally discovered the secret. Wanyu also had feelings for Susong. After that, Susong stepped up and went online to apologize to Wanyu, while posting a correction to clear up the plagiarism, misunderstanding, and taking down the call-out post. But the result wasn't what she hoped for. The correction was constantly mocked by keyboard warriors, and they even made up lies that when Xiang used money to cover things up. This made Wanyu feel incredibly wronged and helpless. That day, Wanyu brought her messy feelings to Zhikuan law firm. She suddenly remembered that this exact day, many years ago, was the day Susong joined a debate contest. The image of the passionate boy, shining brightly on the stage back then, was still printed deeply in her mind, feeling like it just happened yesterday. When entering the meeting room, Wanyu was stunned to find out that Lu Mao's other partner was none other than Susong. Once again, her heart beat out of her chest, and her cheeks turned red. Even in her dreams, Wanyu never expected to meet Susong in this situation. She was so flustered that her hands shook slightly, and the stack of documents fell all over the floor. As for Susong, on the outside he tried to look calm, but inside his heart was already making waves. Seeing this, Lu Mao curiously asked if the two of them knew each other. But who would have guessed they were so in sync that they denied it at the exact same time? Using the excuse of wanting to support Wanyu better, Susong offered to read the content of her novel carefully. Hearing that, Wanyu instantly got stressed, because she was so scared that her secret crush would be exposed. After thinking about it for a while, she decided to give up on suing the other party. After they finished, Lu Mao warmly invited Yu to grab a bite, but Susong used an excuse to drag Lu Mao along for lunch, clearly not wanting to give those two a chance to be alone. Not only that, he also stepped up to sit in the passenger seat, so Yu had to sit in the back, just like he was secretly marking his territory. Along the way, Yu suddenly remembered some company stuff, and said she had to drop by friend's house. Susong and Lu Mao couldn't help but be curious about who this friend was. It wasn't until Lu Mao dug around and found out it was her female editor that the two guys finally dropped the heavy weight in their hearts and breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Mao vaguely felt that Susong's trip back to the country this time was a bit unusual. Why would a guy who was always so low-key suddenly step up to stick his nose into other people's business? Plus, he had to fly back tomorrow. Could it be that he suddenly came back just because he was worried about this tiny plagiarism drama? Actually, the whole thing happened because yesterday, Susong got a call from his little sister, Susher. When he found out his sister accidentally wronged Yu, and even discovered the old secret that Yu used to have a crush on him too, his heart was suddenly a huge mess, so he rushed to fly back. Yu told the whole story of meeting Susong to her best friend Shanyu. After thinking about it for a bit, Shanyu still felt she should sue the other party to protect Yu's rights. So, Yu set up a meeting with another law firm, thinking it would turn out great, but who knew it went nowhere. A few days went by, and all her plans were shot down, making her mood hit rock bottom. That day, Lu Mao called her again. In Yu's head right now, there was only one thought. She had to prove that her novel was an original piece she wrote herself. Following Susong's idea, Lu Mao cheered her on to stand firm on her ground. As for Susong, he made up his mind that he had to make Ji Kuan firm win this case no matter what. After all, only he knew the whole truth of the story. Meanwhile, Lu Mao was secretly scheming in his head, planning to use the case as a chance to get closer to Yu. In Su Shi's heart, there was always only her idol Shirkan. Her friend Zhao had just finished being jealous and mad over her idol stuff, and didn't he expect to bump into Brother Song at the school gate. Seeing Susong calling the name Shir in such a sweet way, he suddenly got crazy jealous, immediately walking up aggressively to provoke him, warning Susong to stay away from Su Shir. By the time he found out the truth that Susong was actually her real older brother, he was filled with regret, just wishing he could find a crack in the ground to hide in. Meanwhile, Susong was originally in Sioux City visiting his sister, but when he got the news that Lu Mao was dressing up super slick to go on a date with Yu, he got anxious and immediately rushed back to the company to be the third wheel for their date. And without any hesitation, he jumped straight into this case. That night, Susong brought his nervous feelings to check Yu's social media page, but found out she set it to strangers cannot view. In his heart, he couldn't help but feel let down. Yu right now was sending the fake smear evidence into the workgroup chat. Afraid that Susong being busy would make the messages get lost, Lu Mao suggested she should message him privately. Hearing that, Yu froze. Remembering back in the day, she used all sorts of nicknames trying to add Susong as a friend but got zero response. Now having to step up and add him made her so nervous that her heart was pounding and her legs were shaking. Actually, on the other end of the line, Susong was also scratching his head, not knowing what excuse to use to add her. Thinking it over and over, he decided to just use work as an excuse to send a request. Yu shyly opened WeChat, sending Susong a sweet greeting. As for Susong, he had to chug several cups of black coffee in a row to calm down and wait for a message. At this moment, he tried to act chill and cold, but didn't he forget to break down every single detail of the case for her. The next morning, Yu slept in, so she lost track of time. She anxiously contacted Susong, constantly worrying about bothering him. Who would have thought he actually suggested making a video call to talk more about the case? Looking at her messy self in the mirror, she hurried to put on gorgeous makeup, just hoping to leave a good impression in her crush's eyes. But little did she know, on the other end of the line, Susong had also groomed himself carefully, even putting on cologne. It wasn't until he was all done that he blanked out and realized. Calling through a screen, how could she smell his cologne anyway? Through the video screen, Susong focused on reviewing her case, while Yu was busy sweeping her eyes to check out the layout of his room. In a flash, she completely forgot the main point of the call, so she had to frantically look for her documents and took the chance to swap her pajama pants for an elegant skirt. When talking about the case details, the two couldn't help but remember their young school days. Back then, she accidentally overheard Susong and his friend's sneaky plan to order takeout. To assist him, she went out of her way to place a ladder at the school wall. Actually, Susong had seen through this whole thing a long time ago, and even saw with his own eyes how she was punished to stand up for being an accomplice. Yu secretly felt lucky that she didn't write this punishment story into her novel. She even joked around teasing the male lead for having a vibe kind of like Zele. During college, Tons of guys raced to copy Ming's CS bossy CEO style to chase after Wanyu. But she firmly claimed that she only liked guys who looked cold and arrogant. That quote made Susong jealous again, misunderstanding that her dream guy wasn't TM. The next day, Shanyu personally investigated Susong's resume. She found out he used to win countless huge cases. His current wealth was super massive, fearing it would make Wanyu feel insecure. However, Wanyu felt happy for him from the bottom of her heart, truly living up to the name of the guy she had fallen for. While Wanyu and Shanyu were chilling out window shopping, they accidentally bumped into their junior, Sensei. The three chatted happily, accidentally mentioning that Ken was about to have a concert in Sioux City in 3 days. Right at this moment, Susong called to announce the latest update from the court. He also investigated and found out the person pulling the strings behind the social media attacks on Wanyu was none other than Sensei. Wanyu immediately got suspicious, stringing everything together. She guessed that today's accidental meetup was highly likely a show that the girl heavily set up. Walking into the coffee shop again, Wanyu's eyes were sharp as knives when she saw Sensei faking a smile and holding Shunning's hands chatting intimately. Without any hesitation, she exposed Sensei's true colors right away. The girl rushed to act innocent, pretending like everything was just a misunderstanding and kept apologizing nonstop. Actually, Wanyu saw right through her, doing all that was just because she was jealous of the close relationship between Wanyu and Ken. That night, Sensei kept urging Su to file a lawsuit against Wanyu. As for Susong, he calmly asked his little sister to find solid proof to show that Sugon was actually Sensei. The next day, Wanyu detailed the look on Sensei's face when apologizing for Lu Mao to hear. She pointed out that the girl was clearly trying to hide her guilt and panic, pretty sure she still had tricks hidden in the back. Lu Mao thought she was being way too paranoid, no need to be stressed out all the time. Right in the middle of that, Susong suddenly came back. He gathered all the evidence about Sensei's moves behind the scenes and put it in Wanyu's hands, helping her feel completely reassured right away. Sure enough, Sensei put on her hypocrite act again to apologize to Wanyu. But behind her back, she was playing dirty tricks, scheming to set her up one more time. Too bad for her. Before her plot could even take shape, Susong caught her red-handed. Wanyu was super curious, not understanding how Su suddenly turned into Susong's inside man, gathering this whole pile of important text messages. Susong also very firmly asked Lu Mao to just block Sensei's contact, exactly as Wanyu wanted. Finally, using the excuse that Lu Mao didn't clearly understand the client's needs, he sneakily kicked Lu Mao right out of this case, officially becoming the direct representative lawyer for Wanyu. Wanyu passed down her secret recording skills to him, asking him to set it up so she could meet Sensei one more time, because the voice recording was the key to winning this lawsuit. That day, Su and Zhao were sneaking around playing on their phones during class, but got unlucky and were caught by their sharp-eyed teacher. The teacher immediately called to tell on them to Susong, thinking he would say a few good words to defend his little sister. Who would have thought? Not only did he not defend her at all, but he coldly pointed out that this wasn't her first time breaking the rules, asking the teacher to just discipline her really strictly, clearly showing a completely professional and unbiased attitude. That night, to thank Susong, Wanyu went out of her way to prep a dinner party, inviting him and Zhao Yi out to eat. Right here, she accidentally bumped into Zhang Chuan eating with a woman, acting super intimate, clearly having an affair. Wanyu instantly got furious and rushed over, loudly announcing that she was the best friend of Zhang Chuan's girlfriend. Zhang Chuan hurried to cover it up, saying this was just a business dinner with Boss Lin, but this business deal was already ruined. The boss who showed up late got so embarrassed he turned angry, about to raise his hand to teach Wanyu a lesson, but Susong immediately stepped in front to protect her. He firmly stated his identity as a lawyer, making the boss and Zhang Chuan scared stiff, so they had to swallow their anger and walk away. After that was done, Wanyu fell into a state of total confusion. She hesitated, not knowing if she should tell her friend Shanyu about Zhang Chuan fooling around with a business partner. It was obvious that this guy Zhang Chuan relied on his good looks to string people along and flirt with female partners. On the drive taking her home, Susong was super thoughtful and turned on the exact song she liked. The soft melody playing in the car made the girl, who was tired all day, fall asleep without realizing it. Looking at her, Susong couldn't hold back from reaching out to gently stroke her hair. But realizing this move was a bit sudden, he got flustered and pulled his hand back, his heart making little waves. Shanyu called Wanyu. Through her tone, it was clear that her friend totally bought Zhang Chuan's words, thinking he was just discussing products with a client when he accidentally ran into Wanyu. The next day, Wanyu went to Ji Kuan law firm again. Seeing the food delivery arrive, she was nice enough to carry the takeout right into the room for Susong. But because he was afraid of ruining his cool image, he denied it like crazy, absolutely refusing to admit that he ordered the food. Seeing that, Lu Mao standing nearby played a sneaky trick, casually eating up all that food. Looking at the empty food box, Susong was practically drooling, looking totally hilarious at that moment. Yu called Sensi, doing it on purpose to turn on the speakerphone, planning to secretly record it as evidence. Who knew Sensi was super on guard, smelling danger the second she listened, and immediately suggested meeting face-to-face at a coffee shop. Susong felt worried, so he went along with Yu. Accidentally, their hands lightly brushed against each other, making the vibe turn awkward in a flash. College memories came rushing back. That quick passing handhold from back then was just like a spark of electricity, making both of their hearts flutter. After thinking about it for a while, Yu locked in a plan to agree to settle with Sensi. Even so, that girl was still super scheming and always kept her guard up. Seeing things weren't looking good, Yu had to switch her game plan. She purposely acted pitiful, tearing up and expressing that she didn't want her writing career to be destroyed. Seeing that, Sensi got smug and instantly showed her true colors. She ordered Yu to get on her knees and beg her, and even conveniently bragged that she only spent a little money hiring internet trolls to easily crush the name Xiang. Right at this intense moment, two little kids playing ran by and accidentally knocked Yu's voice recorder on the ground. She got jump scared, but also realized her plan was totally busted. At first, Yu planned to record in secret to get solid proof of Sensi framing her. Who would have thought the voice recorder would accidentally be dropped by an innocent little kid? In that do-or-die moment, Susong showed up like a lifesaver falling right from the sky. Using the excuse of gently carrying the kid away, he smoothly scooped up the voice recorder without a hitch, keeping Sensi completely in the dark. After that whole thing, Yu was super grateful and kept thanking Susong over and over. As for Sensi, after calming down and realizing the problem, she stepped up to ask Yu for a meeting. This time, Yu firmly declared that they would just talk it out in court. To show her genuine gratitude to Susong, Yu went out of her way to pick out a tiny, cute potted plant to gift him. However, Susong misunderstood and thought it was a gift from Lumao, so he conveniently gave it away to a nearby shop owner. When he found out that the plant was a sweet thought from Yu, the guy regretted it like crazy, hurriedly running as fast as he could to ask for it back. He was already thrilled, thinking he was the only one getting the special treatment of receiving this gift. But who knew when he got back to the company, he found out everybody got a gift. This harsh truth put the guy in a situation where he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Because of the embarrassing plagiarism scandal, the company firmly insisted on canceling the contract with Xiang. Shanyu tried her best to beg her boss to go easy, desperately explaining that she had found clear proof showing Xiang was innocent. But the boss was completely heartless, only giving a 3-day deadline, not even caring about the fact that his current position was all thanks to Xiang. Totally disappointed, Shanyu angrily slammed her staff ID card on the table, straight up quitting her job and walking away. That day, while Yu and Susong were deeply discussing the case over video, she suddenly heard him mention the word bomb on the phone. Yu instantly got super worried, sweetly telling him to get some rest and take care of his health. Right at that moment, his pet cat suddenly popped its face into the screen. Yu couldn't help but remember college times. She once accidentally saw him gently feeding a stray cat. His caring look and stroking hand back then used to make her insanely jealous, even foolishly wishing she was the cat being pampered and taken care of by him. Actually, Susong really didn't have much experience raising cats at all. Even though Yu was misunderstanding that the cat was dropped off at his house by some girl, Susong still tried to act cool, very seriously demonstrating and showing her how to bathe the cat. When the water accidentally soaked his white dress shirt, showing off his toned six-pack abs, Yu's heart immediately started pounding, and her face turned bright red. The truth was, Susong purposely showed off his abs for her to see, and the guy even played a trick pretending to forget to turn off the video, planning to take off his shirt to take a shower. Right at the juicy moment, Shanyu burst into the room, teasing Yu for watching a hot guy showering. Yu frantically hung up, trying hard to clear her name, but it was true that the more she explained, the more it sounded like a confession. Since CS plot was finally exposed, Lumao dropped the core evidence right on time, helping Yu clear her name completely. On social media, netizens took turns blasting Sensi's terrible behavior. After this drama, Shanyu got suspicious. Sensi trying every trick in the book to target Yu so fiercely. Could it have anything to do with Likan? But Yu was still firm that she and Likan were purely friends, absolutely nothing else. The company totally knew Shanying's importance, so they tried every way to hold her back, even swallowing their pride to beg her to represent the company and apologize to Yu sincerely, while rushing Yu to turn in her manuscript quickly. At the same time, Likan joined a TV show and was asked to call someone of the opposite sex right away. Coincidentally, right then Yu and Shanyu were watching this show when her phone rang. Left with no choice, Yu had to agree to meet up and catch up with Likan, But deep down, she was totally restless. After filming the show, Lee got super busy running off to work again. His train of thought naturally drifted back to many years ago. Back then, he was killing it on stage and had purposely asked the staff secretly to set it up so Ruanyu could go up to give him flowers. That was the happiest, most unforgettable day of his life. After performing, he excitedly ran off looking for Ruanyu everywhere. But who knew he'd accidentally overhear her say she liked some guy named Sue. His heart felt like it shattered right then, feeling incredibly sad and let down. That night, Ruanyu had a terrifying nightmare. She dreamed of Sensei breaking into her house with a hideous face, holding a weapon and crazily attacking her. Waking up the next morning, she was still scared to death, heart pounding and legs shaking. That horrifying scene just kept lingering in her head. What was scarier was that when she went out, she felt like someone was sneaking around tailing her. The fear surrounded her like a tidal wave. She frantically called Susong right away to scare off the stalker. She pretended like she was calling her husband, forcing her voice to be calm to say that she was almost home. She was on edge the whole way, and after struggling hard to get home, she suddenly noticed a weird black car parked downstairs, followed right after by rapid knocking on her door. She was so scared her heart was pounding out her chest. Following Susong's earlier advice, she sneaked to the door planning to lock it from the inside, but she got a jump scare when she saw a masked man. Right as she was about to call the cops, Lee's familiar voice suddenly rang out from outside the door. Only then did Ruanyu's nerves, which were tight as a bowstring, finally relax. She breathed a sigh of relief, rushing to warmly invite Lee into her house. Lee looked around and saw the simple furniture setup, totally without any trace of a man, instantly guessing she was still single. The guy was thrilled inside, secretly feeling pretty smug. He smiled and pulled out her favorite cup of milk tea that he went out of his way to drive past their old school to buy, his eyes filled with sweetness. As for Susong, because the call got cut off halfway earlier, he couldn't sit still, worrying about Ruanyu's safety. He anxiously made a video call right over, but who knew he'd see Lee at her house. At the same time, Lee sharply guessed that this lawyer, Sue, must be the guy named Sue that Ruanyu used to mention back in school, and an unexplainable feeling of jealousy suddenly rushed up in his heart. Because he was so worried about Ruanyu, Susong had called the cops earlier, and the result was Lee's driver getting busted right in front of her door, creating a disastrous misunderstanding. Ruanyu had to patiently explain until she was blue in the face to smooth things out. Lee also took this chance to spill the truth about the relationship between him and Sensei. It turned out back in the day, Sensei's family moved to Sioux City to live, so the two families became neighbors. Plus, they went to school together from high school through college, so, in Sensei's eyes, they were childhood sweethearts. But she had no idea that from start to finish, the only person in his heart was Ruanyu. Even since college, he knew her pen name, always kept it locked in his heart, and secretly followed her all these years. It was just that he never dared to confess those deep feelings. That night, Susong's mind was churning, and memories from many years ago came rushing back. Coincidentally, that day was Lee's performance day, and he had prepped carefully, planning to confess to Ruanyu. Who would be? He thought he'd see her smiling, brightly going up to give flowers to Lee. At that moment, he misunderstood that her dream guy was Lee, so he backed off, carrying his sadness and heartbreak. Plus the fact that today he saw his rival show up right at Ruanyu's house with his own eyes. The jealousy jar inside him just exploded, making him incredibly jealous and annoyed. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he got, so Susong suddenly decided to pack his bags and fly back to the country. Early the next morning, he was already downstairs at her place with eyes full of hope and determination. Using the excuse of talking about work, Susong walked right into Ruanyu's house like he owned the place. But she suddenly remembered her house was a total mess, so she made an excuse to sneak into the room to do a quick cleanup. This was Susong's very first time stepping foot into Ruanyu's house. He looked around with slightly judgy eyes. Thinking about the spot Lee sat on the couch made him sick to his stomach, so he totally avoided it, walking straight to the single chair and plopping down. While Ruanyu carefully brewed coffee for him, she accidentally realized he had fallen asleep at some point, looking incredibly relaxed. The sunlight hitting him looked just like laying a layer of golden glow over him. She had to sneakily sit on the side of work, but her eyes just unconsciously kept peeking at him. Looking at her secret crush sitting right in front of her eyes, she felt like she was floating in a dream, incredibly sweet and happy. Susong woke up and purposely dropped a casual hint that he hadn't eaten breakfast yet, and even put on a picky face, complaining that he didn't want to go out to eat. Hearing that, Ruanyu felt bad for him, so she rolled up her sleeves, heading into the kitchen to cook him Sioux City rice cakes with her own hands. Watching him eat it up so happily, his face glowing with satisfaction, Ruanyu's heart bloomed like a flower, feeling like the whole world suddenly became magically beautiful. Susong kept using the excuse of reviewing case files to shamelessly crash at Yu's place. However, halfway through, he got a phone call pointing out where to put the cat food. This made Yu misunderstand that there was some girl in his house. Her jealousy flared up instantly, and her heart was a bitter, sour mess. Meanwhile, because Susong still hadn't adjusted to the time zone, he crashed and fell asleep again. A while later, Yu woke up with a start. It turned out she had accidentally dozed off without realizing it too. She was covered with a warm blanket, while Susong had already left a note and quietly slipped away. Lu Mao went back to the office, burying his head in work when his heart jumped as he saw Susong suddenly pop out of nowhere. He just saw Susong looking super smug, bragging about how he just got to eat Sioux City rice cakes cooked by Yu's own hands. That satisfying look on his face was exactly like the guy just conquered the whole world. Lu Mao was both shocked and curious, interrogating him to see since when did they get that close. Susong just acted all mysterious, grabbing his stuff and slowly walking away, leaving Lu Mao behind scratching his head in total curiosity but unable to do a thing about it. Susong tried to endure his terrible stomachache, tossing and turning all night, keeping Yu in his mind constantly, truly not having the heart to hang up the phone. Early the next morning, Yu vaguely woke up, and while still half asleep, she heard the loud, urgent siren of an ambulance coming from her phone. She jumped, hurriedly asking him what happened, only to find out Susong had been hospitalized, so she frantically wished him a speedy recovery. Who would have thought this guy Susong purposely sent a wrong text, smoothly revealing his hospital room number and the fact that he was craving kanji for Yu to know. So Yu anxiously rushed straight to the hospital. Lu Mao took one look and immediately saw right through Susong's trick. He secretly laughed and quickly dragged their co-worker away, purposely leaving a warm, private space for the two of them. After eating his fill, Susong still didn't want to stop there, so he used the excuse of still feeling tired to act whiny and ask Yu to grab his things for him. He also took this chance to purposely drop a hint that Yu's novel was missing the content of one night and put on a super serious face, saying he didn't know what was written in there, wanting to read it to understand the case details better. Hearing that, Yu's brain instantly clicked to that plot in the story, which was the scene where she and her crush Susong were intimately cuddling. Her face instantly turned bright red, and she quickly used the excuse of laggy internet to avoid sending him the file, then awkwardly found a way to sneak away. At the same time, Susur used the excuse of a toothache to rush her mom to the hospital, hoping full well inside that she could use this chance to smooth out the somewhat tense relationship between mother and daughter. However, when her mom found out her daughter as true motive, she immediately got mad, turned around, and walked away. Susur had to sadly walk to her brother's hospital room, accidentally bumping into Yu coming back to the room to get the kanji container. Susur was super sharp, guessing Yu's identity in a flash. She instantly grabbed Yu's hand enthusiastically, asking her all sorts of things, and even sold out her brother by spilling the secret that he was still single up to now. To play matchmaker for Yu and her brother, Susur secretly added her on WeChat. However, Yu didn't dare to admit that she was the author of the novel Really Want to Bite Your Ear, purely afraid that this misunderstanding would ruin Susong's lifelong marriage prospects. That night, Yu sat at her desk but had zero mind for writing. Her head kept spinning with Susong's shining, handsome image. She even spaced out scrolling through his Weibo, then fell asleep without realizing it. In another turn of events, Susong also recalled his sister's words, thought about it for a bit and felt it made sense, so he called his sister to ask for advice. Under the power of red envelopes, Susur started offering her schemes. She confidently believed she understood Yu very well, so she told Susong to play the guitar while rapping, saying doing that would look both cold and cool, exactly like the idol he can. Hearing this, Susong, who originally thought this plan was pretty good, immediately took back the red envelopes. The guy started getting hit with a wave of jealousy inside, never expecting that even Yu liked guys like we can. Susong felt upset inside, grabbing Lu Mao right away to go drink their sorrows away. His head kept imagining the scene of Yu being next to Li Kan. The more he thought about it, the madder he got, to the point of impulsively admitting that he was the male lead in her novel. Hearing this, Lu Mao was so shocked his eyes went wide. Then he couldn't hold back and scolded Susong for not confessing his feelings sooner, his tone sounding incredibly regretful. As for Susong, his face was all gloomy. He thought the male lead in the story was named Xia Tian, so he assumed Yu probably didn't like him anymore. But Lu Mao didn't think so. He believed the fact that Yu wrote this novel proved that deep down, she still had regrets and wasn't ready to let go. This sentence was like a ray of light, sparking hope for Susong. He instantly caught a cab to go find Yu, moving so fast and clean that it made people drop their jaws. At this point, Susong was already stumbling drunk, but he still gathered all his courage, stumbling and dragging his feet to get downstairs to Won-Yu's place. The tough part was the security guard of this area was super on guard. Seeing that, he firmly grabbed him by the neck and dragged him away, thinking he was a crook. The next day, the security guard took the time to go right up to Won-Yu's house, wearing a serious face to warn her to be careful with her doors and windows lately. It turned out last night there was a drunk guy just standing there mumbling to himself with a tree and even wandering around her house like a headless fly, acting super sketchy. Luckily, the guard spotted it in time and dragged him away by the neck. When Susong arrived at the company, that embarrassing incident from last night was only known to Lu Mao. It turned out the night before, wanting to copy Li Qin to win over the ladies, Susong suddenly got the urge to bust out a dance, resulting in making too much noise and getting the cops called on him by the neighbors. Good thing the picture of Susong getting taken away was super blurry, making it impossible to see who was who. The co-workers who didn't know the truth gathered around. When talking about the topic of picking up girls, everyone nodded in agreement that a once-in-a-lifetime chance absolutely couldn't be missed, then rubbed their hands together ready to show off their skills. Inside, Susong was filled with deep regret. He finally used booze to gather his courage, yet ended up causing this incident where he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Right at that moment, he unexpectedly got a dinner invite from Won-Yu. Seeing that, Lu Mao sighed, saying if Won-Yu knew about that crazy stuff last night, the girl would definitely never go out to celebrate him getting out of the hospital. However, this was also a great chance for Susong to have some private space. So Lu Mao used the excuse of being busy to slip away. That night, Won-Yu and Susong went out to eat alone, and the vibe was a bit awkward. To keep a good image in each other's eyes, both of them didn't dare to order a huge feast, but just cautiously ordered kanji, then sat there eating super elegantly, acting like they were on some highly important mission. Only when they switched the topic to the casework did the air feel a bit less suffocating. Who knew right at this moment? Mingying sent Won-Yu a video clip of the drunk guy showing up in her neighborhood. The girl totally didn't realize the guy in the clip was exactly Susong, and even laughed while teasing that he was a true fan of Li Qin, dancing so smoothly. Susong sitting next to her heard it and was sweating bullets, only able to try to hide his panic, forcing out a super stiff smile. The next day, Won-Yu went back to visit her parents' house. Just stepping through the door, she already smelled a familiar scent. Her mom had woken up early to prep her favorite osmanthus cake, looking golden yellow with a sweet, fragrant smell that made her mouth water just looking at it. Her dad, Caring, asked about the blind date between her and Lu Mao. Won-Yu didn't hide anything either, straight up saying that she and Lu Mao weren't a match. But her dad, Chung Ru, misunderstood, thinking that young people nowadays only cared about working and were too lazy for marriage. So he secretly discussed it with his wife, planning to set things up for Lu Mao to interact more with Won-Yu, hoping that a spark would catch if they stayed close long enough. When night came, Mrs. Wan stepped up to contact Lu Mao, warmly asking him to check out the situation at their old house in Sioux City for her whenever he was free. Lu Mao proudly brought this text to show off to Susong, basically to flex about how much he won over the parents. Susong rolled his eyes thinking, then jumped at the chance to reply that he coincidentally had to go to Sioux City for a case too, hinting that he could also tag along. The next morning, Lu Mao arrived right on time to pick up Won-Yu and her mom, even purposely bringing up the fact that Susong was going to visit his grandma. Hearing that, Mrs. Wan kept feeling like the name Susong sounded familiar, trying to dig through her memory, thinking to herself he was probably the kid of some neighbor. Won-Yu and her mom took a walk on the street, the sunlight shining down warmly. They caught up on old times together, bright, happy smiles on their lips, feeling super nostalgic about those beautiful days. When walking past the old grocery store, the familiar scene suddenly made Won-Yu remember the moment she accidentally ran into Susong here back in the day. At that time, he was sitting quietly by the window, the sunlight hitting him like covering him in a bright golden halo. Won-Yu looked at him totally mesmerized, feeling like time had frozen right then. After that, the mother and daughter dropped by the school cafeteria. The familiar flavor rushed back, making Won-Yu totally drop her elegant act, grabbing a chicken leg and munching away incredibly happily. Suddenly, Su Shi's voice rang out from far away. Won-Yu turned to look and freaked out, discovering that Susong was also here. The girl frantically shoved the chicken leg over to her mom, covering her face with her hands, purely terrified that Susong would see her uncool eating appearance. Meanwhile, in another corner, Zhao Yi was recalling his nickname Zhao Se. This nickname came from the fact that back then, Su Shi called his name wrong, causing him to be yelled at by the whole class with that name for a solid year. But deep down, he actually really liked this name because it was given to him by Su Shi herself, carrying a super special meaning. Tap 9. Won-Yu walked alone into the deep, dark alley filled with old memories. The sickly yellow streetlights stretched her shadow out long. Suddenly, a suspicious guy dashed out from a dark corner, targeting a girl walking ahead like a hungry wolf. The girl was so scared her face turned pale, screaming for help. In that do-or-die moment, Shanyu calmly dialed the police. The siren tore through the quiet night. By the time it was late at night, she walked through this scary alley again. She kept feeling like there were footsteps trailing her like a shadow, thinking it was that creep from earlier coming back for revenge. Just as she gripped her pepper spray tight, getting ready to fight back, her wrist was grabbed by a big, warm hand. Unexpectedly, it was Susong. It turned out he heard about the dangerous incident from earlier and couldn't stop worrying, afraid she might run into trouble on her way home. So he secretly stood here, waiting to protect her. The two walked into the warm convenience store at the corner. Amidst the rising steam, they caught up on their innocent high school days together. He gently explained that going overseas back then wasn't his idea, but he was forced by his parents. Those deep eyes had a sense of helplessness and regret for the past. That night, with heavy rain and wind outside the window, Susong's train of thought was pulled back to the darkest moment from many years ago. That year, to investigate a case of a murdered schoolgirl, he was like a lone hero stepping right into the tigress den. But exactly because of that, he messed with the criminal's interests, causing his house to be splashed with red paint in the middle of the night. That creepy red color became a nightmare in his parents' hearts, which was also the direct reason pushing him to go far away from home. The next morning, the weather wasn't on their side. A heavy downpour poured down like a waterfall, turning the streets into a river in a flash. Sure enough, just as Susong predicted, after driving around for a long while, he finally accidentally ran into Shanyu at the intersection she usually took. To hide the fact that he was purposely waiting, he pretended to be chill and lied that he was dropping his little sister, Susong, off at school, but the bottom of his eyes shined with a deep affection that was hard to hide. The space in the car was a bit tight. The bubbly little sister, Susong, trying to play wingman for her brother, was chirping like a little sparrow, constantly starting conversations to try and dig more info out of Shanyu. However, when the girl accidentally spotted the limited edition keychain of her idol leaking on Shanyu's backpack, admiration clearly showed on her face, and she couldn't hold back from cheering out loud. The exact moment he heard the name Leakan, Susong's hand holding the steering wheel suddenly gripped tight. An unexplainable fire of anger flared up in his chest, and his face instantly darkened, as if you could squeeze water out of it. He immediately put on a cold face and ordered Susong to get out of the car and walk into school herself, leaving behind a space as tense as a bowstring. The school was about to host a graduation trip. Shanyu sat under the lamp thinking about the plot for a novel, but couldn't figure out how to write it, afraid that the feelings on the paper would expose the secret in her heart, letting Susong find out that the person she had a secret crush on all this time was exactly him. Memories went back to that year. She had eagerly signed up to join, folding a whole glass jar full of paper stars hiding a young girl's inner thoughts, planning to confess to him when the trip ended. But fate played a joke on her. That day, Susong didn't show up. She held the gift she didn't get to give, standing and crying in the wind, feeling incredibly disappointed. After so many years of toughening up, Shanyu lifted her head, pretending to be chill as she said she believed the female lead in the novel would eventually let go of the male lead. Her tone as light as floating clouds and passing wind, acting just like she was telling someone else's story. Hearing that, Susong's heart felt like it was stabbed by a needle, aching sharply, but he still forced himself to lie that readers would never like such a lingering and regretful sad ending. That night, Susong drove Shanyu home. The car had already stopped downstairs, but he didn't turn off the engine for a long time. His head was entirely filled with her phrase, "Let go of the male lead," just looping over and over like a magic spell. He gripped the steering wheel so hard his fingertips turned white, feeling both unwilling and angry inside, not understanding why she could so easily say words of giving up like that. On this side, Shanyu poured her heart out in front of her best friend Shanyu. Every single word couldn't escape Susong's shadow, but she mistakenly thought that he only saw her as an old classmate and totally didn't have romantic feelings for her. She took a deep breath, like she had made up her mind about something, thinking that once the current case was over, she definitely had to say a proper goodbye to him, putting a full stop to this one-sided love. The next morning, under the blazing sunlight, Susong poured all his unspeakable frustrations out onto the tennis court. The racket swung through the air with a whoosh, every hit carrying anger. His close friend Lu Mao looked at him using the tennis ball to blow off steam and couldn't help himself, so he offered a tip, suggesting he test Shanyu's feelings one more time. He even took it upon himself to set up a meeting with Shanyu for tomorrow at the law firm to talk about going to court, using the excuse of discussing work, but actually finding every way to create a private chance for Susong. At this time, Zhang Chuan was at the company's celebration party. Under the fancy lights, he was like a predator, purposely catching the attention of director Gao's daughter. He tried his best to win her over, from taking drinks for her to carrying her bag, even playing hard to get when walking her home, his eyes full of calculation. The next day, Rwanyu showed up at the law firm right on time to find Lu Mao to talk about work. While they were talking about the important part, the meeting room door was suddenly pushed open, and Susong walked in carrying a cold vibe. Even though on the outside he still acted cold and distant, like he was just casually walking by, the stack of documents he conveniently tossed on the table was packed with every detail and prep step for the case, clearly showing he had paved the way for her a long time ago. The vibe before the court hearing was super tense. Rwanyu specifically picked out a gift for Susong, treating it as a full stop to this pointless one-sided love, and also as a gentle goodbye to him. Susong tried to hold back the sharp pain rolling up in his heart, pretending to be calm as he took the gift, promising with a hoarse voice that they would definitely see each other again later, and he would for sure show up to the court hearing. After that, when returning to the empty office, Susong shakily opened the gift box. Inside was a digital watch with simple features. He immediately guessed that maybe she was hinting that time would fade everything away, and the two of them would eventually have nothing to do with each other. Lu Mao, standing nearby, saw him overthinking, and quickly advised him to stop spiraling, saying it'd be better to just ask her straight up to clear things out. Rwanyu had just walked out of the law firm building when the sky suddenly poured down rain like crazy, so she had to struggle running in the rain to the bus stop. Right when her whole body was soaked, a black umbrella covered her head, and Susong's tall figure showed up next to her. On the drive, taking her home, with the wipers swiping back and forth on the windshield, he purposely rolled up his sleeves to show off the digital watch. Seeing that, Rwanyu smiled, happily explaining that this watch could track his health status in real time, telling him he absolutely had to pay attention to his health and not overwork himself. Her words full of care that couldn't be hidden. At the same time, Zhang Chuan used the excuse of working overtime, but was actually on a date with director Gao's daughter, Gao Yin, at a private club. At this point, Shan Ying, worried that he was hungry, especially braved the rain to bring the dinner she cooked with her own hands. However, when Zhang Chuan saw Gao Yin, he coldly explained right in front of Shan Ying that she was just a stranger coming to deliver food, to keep Gao Yin from getting suspicious. He even used a fake emergency meeting as an excuse, heartlessly kicking Shan Ying, who was feeling wronged and upset, away, leaving her standing in the rain with red, teary eyes. The car arrived downstairs at Rwanyu's place, and Susong suddenly grabbed his stomach, pretending to be weak and groaning about a stomachache. Rwanyu bought it completely, worriedly inviting him upstairs for dinner. Susong was secretly thrilled inside and hurriedly agreed. Right when he walked in, he was surprised to find that Rwanyu had a pair of men's house slippers ready. A sour feeling instantly rose up in his heart, mistakenly thinking she prepped them for her idol Lican. While feeling upset, he suddenly saw her silhouette changing clothes faintly cast on the bedroom curtains, making his heart unconsciously pound out his chest and his mouth turn dry. Ironically, right at this moment, the digital watch suddenly let out a health warning beep. He hurriedly and awkwardly took it off to hide his panic and embarrassment. Lu Mao went out to eat with an internet friend named Shan, and after a few glasses of wine, he realized he was getting scammed when he ordered a bottle with a sky-high price. Out of options, he had to call Susong for help. As soon as Susong arrived at the restaurant, with eyes as sharp as knives, he instantly saw there was something sketchy going on. He calmly took pictures of the menu, recorded close-ups of the staff's faces, and coldly pointed out that Shan's behavior today had signs of a gold-digging scam. It turned out Shan purposely played the victim to drag customers in to earn a commission from the restaurant, while the restaurant purposely jacked up the prices crazily. But these tricks ultimately couldn't get past the eyes of the golden lawyer Susong. He had secretly recorded everything and firmly called the cops, then walked away with his head held high alongside Lu Mao. Susong's thoughts drifted back to many years ago. That day, he had happily picked out a graduation gift for Rwanyu, but when he got home, he heard his parents getting into a massive fight. Right after that, Su Shi ran downstairs crying, breaking the news that their parents were about to get a divorce, and the little girl didn't want to follow their dad to America. Wanting to give in to his little sister's wishes, Susong had to agree to go with his dad, and also gave the gift he took the time to pick out to Su Shi. The next day, when the court hearing took place, everyone realized Sinsi didn't show up, so the court had to send a notice through the mail. Who would be thought that after getting a call from her lawyer, Sinsi was so desperate that she committed suicide? Netizens who didn't know the whole truth immediately blew up, constantly criticizing that it was Rwanyu who pushed her into a corner, throwing public opinion into chaos. Not only did Sinsi not show up to court, but she also firmly chose to end her own life, making Rwanyu become the target of a massive wave of cyberbullying for no reason. At this point, Likan sharply caught the news and immediately informed Sinsi's parents. He rushed to the hospital, smoothly drawing the media's attention, creating a chance for Rwanyu to dodge the swarm of reporters. When night fell, Likan quietly went to the parking lot, lowering his voice to let Ruan Yu know that Sensei was out of danger, while dropping hints that this whole thing had a lot of sketchy points, fearing this was just a show she directed and acted in herself. The next day, the weather was sunny and beautiful. Shanyu was on the phone while rushing to the law firm to find Susong, but got mistaken by Lu Mao for a wine promoter, so he instantly waved his hand to shoo her away. The result was the two got into a heated argument, only to realize in shock that Shanyu was actually Ruan Yu's best friend, and the other person was the Lu Mao she had always wanted to meet. After clearing up the misunderstanding, Lu Mao sincerely said that lately it really was convenient for Ruan Yu to show her face, but promised to let her know right away the second there was any new update. The two added each other on WeChat to show their sincerity. That night, under the moonlight that shone as clear as water, Dadson brought a heavy heart and took the initiative to go downstairs to Ruan Yu's place to formally apologize to her, saying he didn't fulfill his duty of raising his daughter right. Dadson totally understood his kid's temper. He revealed that his daughter had mental health issues and was ready to take responsibility and pay compensation for his daughter's actions. However, Ruan Yu didn't take the compensation money. She just hoped the truth would be brought to light, giving her back her innocence and justice. Dadson angrily scolded Li Kan for taking it upon himself to shoulder the public pressure. He said he was ready to team up with Li Kan to clear everything up, but was worried that Sensei already knew this address, afraid she would do something extreme. So he advised Ruan Yu to move out quickly to stay safe. After thinking it over and over, Susong decided to set Ruan Yu up to stay at another secret apartment of his. Shanyu originally planned to invite Ruan Yu over to her place to stay away from all this drama, but unexpectedly heard Susong's voice on the phone. She caught the hint and hung up, secretly feeling happy for her bestie. Li Kan arrived at the hospital, and Sensei immediately put on a pitiful, sad act. She kept bringing up their sweet memories from before, trying to spark Li Kan's soft side. However, Li Kan calmly said that it was just a normal friend relationship. Sensei wasn't willing to give up. She loved him so deeply, but in his heart, there was only Ruan Yu. Li Kan wasn't moved at all by her pain. He knew very well that doing so would only truly hurt Sensei. He firmly said that someone who truly likes someone wouldn't use morals to tie the other person down, let alone hurt what that person cares about. He even told her straight up, if she was stubborn about getting revenge, he wouldn't hesitate to step up and protect Ruan Yu. That night, under the starry sky, Susong took the initiative to go into the kitchen to cook Ruan Yu a huge feast, and also patiently chatted to untangle her mind, helping her get through this dark time. At the same time, Li Kan sat alone by the window, recalling those innocent teenage years. He once rented a guitar, but unfortunately broke it, and then was asked to pay a crazy high price for it. Luckily, Ruan Yu stepped up just in time to help bail him out, and even chipped in with their classmates to buy him a brand new guitar. It was also exactly in that performance that he shined brightly and scored a huge success. And ever since that time, a deep affection for Ruan Yu had secretly sprouted in Li Kan's heart. Susong set Ruan Yu up to stay put in his apartment. That night, Li Kan was worried sick, calling Ruan Yu and using the excuse of asking about legal stuff to poke around and see if Susong was with her. When he found out Susong had left, he couldn't help but secretly feel happy. Right that night, Ruan Yu suddenly felt under the weather and got a fever. In her daze, she asked Susong where the fever medicine was. Susong got worried and hurried over to bring the medicine, and even took incredibly good care of her. Also that night, Ruan Yu leaned into his warm arms to take the medicine, then drift off to sleep, while Susong was so nervous his heart was pounding like a beating drum. The next morning, Ruan Yu slowly woke up, vaguely remembering the scene of Susong taking sweet care of her in her head. Carrying an anxious and uneasy mood, she slowly walked out to the living room. Right at this moment, Susong just got back from buying breakfast, and was even carefully taking notes on her fever situation. A wave of worry rose up in Ruan Yu's heart. Afraid that if things kept going like this, she would sink deep into this emotional whirlpool and not be able to get out. So she hurried to ask her best friend Shanyu to help find a suitable place to live. Meanwhile, Shanyu borrowed her boyfriend Zhang Chuan's ID card, pretending she wanted to go register their marriage. But actually she was secretly prepping a surprise gift for him, which was the car he always dreamed of. Right at this moment, the hotel receptionist called to remind Zhang Chuan that he hadn't checked out yet. He panicked and lied that he had no intention of buying a house, then quickly hung up. Actually, Shanyu vaguely caught the part about the hotel, and couldn't help but feel a spark of suspicion rise up in her heart. Li Kan called to check on Ruan Yu's health, sounding full of care. Susong purposely spoke louder, and even took the initiative to put his hand on Ruan Yu's forehead to check her temperature. This move was nothing but wanting to warn Li Kan to stay away from Ruan Yu, and don't even think about trying anything. Meanwhile, Susher sharply noticed that Zhao Yi was acting a bit weird lately. She secretly guessed if the guy was falling in love. At this point, Zhao Yi nervously handed over a piece of paper. Susher instantly got curious, demanding to see the love letter that some other girl sent him, But Zhao didn't want to expose that the person he liked was exactly Su Shi. Ruan Yu found a place she liked online, but the landlord made it clear that they only rented to single women. This made Ruan Yu a bit on guard. After thinking for a sec, she straight up turned down this house. Susong went with Ruan Yu to go house hunting. When walking past a milk tea shop, the image of them video calling before suddenly popped into his head. Ruan Yu used to drink milk tea from the shop, so both of them walked in. The milk tea shop staff recognized Ruan Yu, even remembering the sweet scene when she and Liken drank milk tea together. The moment this sentence slipped out, it couldn't help but make a feeling of jealousy rise up in Susong. A whole day went by, and the house hunting went nowhere. Susong was secretly thrilled inside, while Ruan Yu disappointedly sat playing with his pet cat to relieve her sadness. That night, Shanyu was washing her face in the bathroom, while Zhang Chuan was happily chatting on the phone with director Gao's daughter, and even lied to Shanyu that he was discussing work with a coworker. Actually, Shanyu already felt that something was off, but didn't expose it right then. Meanwhile, Liken was terrified that Susong would beat him to it and win Ruan Yu's heart, so he purposely sent his portrait to Susong's apartment. The goal was nothing else but to keep chasing after her. A unique idea suddenly popped into Liken's head. He immediately decided to send his portrait right to Susong's apartment. Seeing Susong visibly pissed off, Ruan Yu hurriedly explained that it was actually Su Shi who was super eager to ask her to get this portrait for her. Meanwhile, Su Shi was overjoyed because she got a gift that Zhao he put a lot of effort into preparing. But when she got a text from her brother and unexpectedly found out the idol portrait she always dreamed of was already at the house, she was so happy she literally jumped for joy. Seeing that, the jealousy in Zhao's heart instantly flared up fiercely. That night, Susong stared at the portrait. The more he looked, the more it bothered him, feeling as frustrated as if there was a fire burning inside him. So, he carefully hid the portrait behind the curtain, going by the out of sight, out of mind rule, and only then felt at peace to turn away. As for Ruan Yu, she quietly looked at the hair clip Susong gave her. Her train of thought unconsciously drifted back to many years ago. She remembered his coldness back then, compared to his thoughtful care tonight. It was truly like night and day. She couldn't help but secretly think, could it be that he already liked her? The next day, the weather was sunny and beautiful. Shanyu excitedly asked Zhang Chuan out on a date. Originally, Zhang Chuan was all hyped up prepping for a romantic date with Gao Yan. However, when he got a text from the car dealership, the guy was as happy as a clam, immediately accepting Shanyu's date without hesitation, and even racked his brain to find an excuse to cancel on Gao Yan. Meanwhile, Susong had woken up early, prepping a huge and delicious breakfast for Ruan Yu. At this point, Liken delivered some good news. Sensei had been picked up by her dad to go overseas for treatment, so Ruan Yu could finally feel at peace to go back home. Hearing that, Ruan Yu hurried to pack her bags, while Susong couldn't hide a flash of disappointment in his heart. Right at this moment, teacher he called, sincerely inviting Susong to his birthday party. Ruan Yu's parents also got an invite, so she happily decided to tag along too. Zhang Chuan was over the moon when he arrived at the neighborhood and saw the car he had always dreamed of. He even imagined the scene of himself driving smoothly and looking cool on the road. Then he quickly picked a flower on the side of the road and happily brought it to give to Shanyu. Actually, Shanyu already knew about his affair with Gao Yan. This time, she specifically hid the ring in the dessert to give it back to him. Right when Zhang Chuan was pretending to be sincere, explaining that he only had Shanyu in his heart, Gao Yan suddenly showed up from behind. It turned out, when she went to the hotel to investigate, Shanyu accidentally bumped into Gao Yan. After chatting for a bit, both of them saw Zhang Chuan's true colors clearly and decided to team up to expose his two-timing behavior. Gao Yan instantly fired Zhang Chuan, and Shanyu also firmly broke up with him. After that, she got into the luxury car and coldly drove away. Finally, Shanyu woke up from her dream. She regretfully remembered how Zhang Chuan used sweet talk to coax her into being blindly in love, and how she even pinched pennies, working hard to save up money to buy a luxury car for him. Now she was no longer stupid enough to be fooled. On the other hand, Susong used the excuse that Sensei still wasn't willing to let it go to ask Ruan Yu out for a meal, planning to discuss the next steps deeper with her. That day, Sensei's dad sincerely apologized to Wenxiang on his daughter's behalf, and at the same time publicly cleared up the truth that Wenxiang was framed. Right after that, the wind of public opinion quickly turned to criticize Su Zheng, while everyone was eagerly waiting for Wenxiang's new work. After a few days of hanging out with Susong constantly, Ruan Yu's writing inspiration suddenly flowed out. She decided to write a spin-off story for the male and female leads, telling about their romantic accidental meetup in a strange city. Meanwhile, using her experience of being cheated on, Shanyu went to Lu Mao for advice, asking how she could legally punish that backstabbing ex-boyfriend to blow off steam. The more Shanyu thought about it, the more frustrated and unwilling to let it go she felt. All these years, she put her whole heart into building this relationship. Yet she was played mercilessly by Zhang Chuan. Right now inside, she just wanted to find a way to hit him back really hard. Right at this moment, Zhang Chuan pulled all sorts of tricks to beg to get back together. Shanyu firmly tossed this whole mess to Lu Mao to handle completely, not bothering to drag it out with another word. That day happened to be teacher He's grand birthday party. Ruanyu was on edge, purely terrified of bumping into Susong at the party, so her eyes kept darting around. When she saw that Susong didn't show up, she finally breathed a sigh of relief, feeling like she dropped a heavy weight from her heart. As soon as the class president saw Ruanyu, he was so surprised his eyes popped out, because after all, she and Susong never liked joining these kinds of parties. However, the two of them often liked and interacted with each other on social media. So the class president couldn't help but be nosy to see if the two of them were secretly in love but playing hard to get on the outside. Just as he finished speaking, Susong hurriedly ran over. At this point, Ruanyu finally put two and two together. It turned out from the very beginning, Susong already knew she was the female lead in that novel, and even purposely set up so many accidental run-ins all this time. As for herself, she was just like a clown, trying her best to hide everything so foolishly. In the middle of the lively party, Mrs. Ruan excitedly brought up her daughter's marriage to gossip with her friends. Hearing that, the aunties enthusiastically brought out pictures of young men of marriageable age to show Mrs. Ruan, hoping to play matchmaker for a good relationship. On this side, Susong was as anxious as sitting on hot coals, hurriedly shifting over to sit at the same table with Ruanyu. Mr. Ruan took one glance and instantly recognized his student from back in the day, immediately striking up a warm conversation. Mrs. Ruan also instantly liked this incredibly handsome guy, Susong, with his outstanding vibe, so she totally didn't hold back and assigned him to take Ruanyu home after the party ended. When the party ended, Susong was already standing at the door waiting who knows since when. Ruanyu realized she got played and was incredibly pissed off. Talking to him, she kept being sarcastic, throwing shade with every single word. The more she thought about it, the more humiliated she felt for making a fool of herself at the party. It seemed like the feelings she had for him were seen through by him forever ago, yet he still brazenly acted like he didn't know a thing. So furious, she straight up blocked his WeChat without showing any mercy. That night, Ruanyu was drowning in frustration, having zero mind to write. But the deadline to submit the manuscript was fast approaching. Shanyu was worried sick, hurriedly thinking of all sorts of ways to bail her friend out. Out of options, Ruanyu had to post an announcement pausing the release of new chapters, while sincerely refunding all the fees to her readers as an apology. In the middle of the night, Ruanyu kept tossing and turning, unable to sleep, so she sneaked over to Shanning's room, who knew she accidentally startled her friend awake. As a result, the two stayed up all night, sitting and chatting with each other until morning. On the other side, Susong was also tossing and turning all night. He rolled around in bed, racking his brain, thinking of all sorts of ways to send his most sincere apology to Ruanyu. The next day, Susong, full of hope, texted to apologize to Ruanyu, but who knew he'd find out he was already sitting comfortably on her block list who knows since when, making him feel incredibly let down inside. He hurriedly went to Lu Mao, asking him to make up all sorts of excuses that sounded reasonable to poke around about Ruanyu's current situation. But Ruanyu already saw right through him a long time ago, instantly guessing that Susong was the one pulling the strings to snoop around. So she purposely dropped the news that the reason she stopped writing the story was because the male lead's image collapsed, totally night and day compared to what she imagined. For several days after that, Susong was like an ant on a hot pan, unable to sit still because he got absolutely zero news from Ruanyu. As for Ruanyu, she was also finding every way to push Susong out of her head. But whenever she saw the house slippers prepped specifically for him, his silhouette instantly rushed back into her mind. Even the sofa made her remember his lazy, lounging appearance from back then. Every corner of the house was deeply marked with his traces, making her basically unable to erase him from her memories. Finally, she firmly decided to go away for a few days for a change of scenery, running away from reality. Ruanyu leisurely walked into the ancient village of Shanyu, starting a totally relaxing getaway. She excitedly pulled out her phone, snapped a picture of the postcard perfect view, and showed it to Shanyu. Meanwhile, as Shanning's super clutch lawyer, Lu Mao was having a high-stakes negotiation with Zhang Chuan. He pointed out that as a man, you gotta stay faithful, and when you're around other women, you need to know how to keep a safe distance. This line made Shanyu, who was eavesdropping in the shadows, see Lu Mao in a whole new light. She never expected this guy to have such a masculine and responsible side. Meanwhile, that piece of work Zhang Chuan was still trash-talking Shanyu with zero shame. He even had the nerve to talk smack, saying that at her age, she'd be lucky to find anyone better than him. Seeing that, Shanyu stepped out with total boss energy, gave him a slap that made him see stars, and walked away in style. Back to Ruanyu, She had just walked around the village when a lady grabbed her and insisted on dragging her to her homestay. Wanyu felt creeped out and tried to brush her off, but the lady stuck to her like glue. Just then, Uncle Wong came running over. Wanyu thought they were a gang of scammers and got so spooked she swung at the man. It wasn't he until later she realized it was just one big, hilarious misunderstanding. When Wanyu walked into the cozy little homestay run by the lady and Uncle Wong, she was instantly hooked by the elegant, old-school vibe. Her heart felt totally at ease, and all her worries just vanished. At the firm, Lu Mao was taking on a big pro bono case that required a trip to Shanyu, but everyone was swamped. Susong reluctantly said he couldn't leave his overseas case. Lu Mao had a bright idea. He scrolled through social media and made sure Susong saw that Wanyu was in Shanyu. Like clockwork, Susong didn't hesitate and volunteer for the case because he was worried sick about her. Susong and Chunhui arrived at the village looking beat. They tried a weird tactic, giving away free eggs to get people to come for legal advice. Little did they know, the villagers hated these promos to the bone. Many seniors have been scammed into buying fake health supplements at sky-high prices before, so now they just wanted to kick anyone giving out freebies out of the village. While setting up shop, Susong accidentally scraped his hand. Chunhui kept rambling like a fortune teller, predicting some bloody disaster today, and tried to drag Susong back to the firm to play it safe. When the villagers heard someone was handing out free eggs again, they were livid. They had these scammers all figured out from the tricks to the clothes. Susong was clueless and got hit by the whole wave. Seeing the crowd, he was actually happy at first, thinking they wanted legal help. Boy, was he wrong. After the chaos, to prove they weren't bad guys, Susong and Chunhui had to agree to the lady's demand, pounding rice cakes to pay off their debt. The irony was that Wanyu was the one who came up with this idea, totally unaware Susong was even in the village. Later, both sides sat down to talk, but it just made the misunderstanding worse. Right at the most heated moment, Susong and Wanyu ran into each other in a narrow alley. Wanyu couldn't believe he was sticking to her like glue everywhere she went. Back at the homestay, she met a die-hard Lekan fan named Lishan, who was the owner's brother. The owner shooed her naughty brother away, but the kid was curious about the guests, calling out that the two clearly had a thing for each other, but were playing it cool. Lishan was thrilled to hear Wanyu was a writer, pitching himself to be in her novel to leave a legacy. After a messy day, Lishan said the village has a famous night market. Susong really wanted to go, but he was afraid it'd be awkward for Wanyu, so he made an excuse. On this side, after the hilarious day, Wanyu's inspiration started flowing. Thanks to that, her novel continued with some very juicy new chapters. Susong and Chunhui visited the old village of Shanyu. Once the misunderstanding was cleared, the friendly villagers gathered everyone who needed help at the homestay. There were all sorts of messes. One girl had an accidental pregnancy, which gave Susong a scare, since that's a serious matter. But when a main character showed up, everyone was shocked to find out it was a dog. At the same time, another guest came in furious to report a noodle shop, saying there was glass in the bowl, but the owner acted like it was no big deal. Finally, a girl walked in hesitantly. She cried her eyes out saying she met a guy who led her on. She angrily called him a coward and a wimp for always making excuses and being vague. Hearing this, Susong fell for her. He actually spoke up for the guy, saying maybe he had his own struggles and they should give him more time. Actually, he said this for Wanyu to hear, using the chance to sincerely apologize to her. That day, Wanyu's parents video called to check on her. In the middle of that sweet moment, Lishan popped into the frame. The parents got nosy and started questioning her excitedly. But deep down, they still thought Susong was the best catch. After that, Lishan went to Susong for help, looking helpless. He frantically said he wanted to sue his own dad. The words barely left his mouth before he was chased and beaten around the house. After digging deeper, it turned out Lishan was a fanboy, and his dad took his ID to stop him. That night, to get close to Wanyu, Susong had a plan. He had Chunhui go ask the homestay owner for stomach medicine and drop a hint about his irregular eating habits. The owner invited him a hot pot, and he sat right next to Wanyu and ate happily. Chunhui and Wanyu got wasted. Wanyu crawled under the table, admitting she only pretended to dislike Susong and felt like a clown being teased by him. Susong finally got it and comforted her. Next day, Wanyu woke up and vaguely remembered her confession, also remembering he thought she was cute. She panicked and texted Shining for help. Then she faked amnesia and appeared before Susong, but he saw right through it. The owner gifted them tickets to a gourd painting shop. Wanyu drew a fox, Susong drew a rabbit. While they were bickering about Lishan's case, an old man kicked them out. That was Lishan's dad. Dad beat Lishan for wanting to take his ID and leave. Wanyu talked to Uncle Lee about her writing career struggles to help him understand. Susong also talked to Lishan about real-world costs, and that what he really needed was family support. Lishan decided to stay and save money. Meanwhile, Lee Kan's manager made him do sales live streams, which he hated. Lee Kan commented on Lee Shan's song cover online, and Lee Shan was over the moon. Next morning, Ruanyu studied the village's heritage with Uncle Lee. Lee Shan apologized to his dad, using Lee Kan's encouragement as a shield, and Dad gave back the ID. Susong and Ruanyu helped the widow by buying all her rice cakes. Back at the homestay, Lee Kan suddenly appeared. Susong acted like a host to block Lee Kan from being alone with Ruanyu. Lee Kan and Susong faced off while the homestay ladies loved the drama. Lee Kan sat by the river and got a shocking text from Susong. Susong told college stories to Ruanyu while Lee Kan showed photos of their sweet memories. Ruanyu called out that the photos were just her and Shanyu, leaving Lee Kan embarrassed. Lee Shan fanboyed over Lee Kan. It turned out Susong used Lee Shan to distract his rival. That night, Shanyu saw Zhang Chuan with a new girl. Lu Mao saved her by ordering an expensive lobster. Zhang Chuan's allergy lie made the new girl dump him. Lee Kan walked slowly into the old town, and in a blink of an eye, he was surrounded by the enthusiastic crowd at the homestay. Seeing that, Lee Shan hurried to get his guitar out, super excited for his idol to sing an impromptu song. Hard to turn down everyone's passion. Lee Kan had to strum the guitar and sing his favorite song with deep emotion. The familiar melody made Ruanyu suddenly remember the warm vibe during the company's team-building trip before. That night, under a beautiful meteor shower streaking across the sky, she put her hands together and made a sincere, sweet wish about Susong. The next morning, Ruanyu happily asked Lee Kan for a walk on the street. Susong happened to eavesdrop on this and purposely groomed himself to look sharp, then went downstairs to pretend to accidentally run into Ruanyu. The guy lied that he was also planning to go to the market. Ruanyu had no choice but to reluctantly let him tag along. Meanwhile, Shanyu woke up half asleep and was horrified to find the person lying next to her was Lu Mao. She suddenly remembered that because she had too many drinks last night, she had recklessly slept with him. So embarrassed and awkward, she had to sneak out and flee. But leaving without saying a word seemed a bit rude. After thinking it over, she decided to text him a thank you note for being there with her. On this side, while walking, Lee Kan and Susong kept secretly bickering and throwing shade at each other along the way, both racking their brains for ways to score points in Ruanyu's eyes. At the same time, while taking out the trash for the homestay, Lee Shan accidentally picked up Lee Kan's song draft. Feeling it was such a waste to throw it away, he carefully picked it up and brought it back. Meanwhile, Zhaoji had just finished school and hurried to slip away, but this suspicious behavior didn't escape Huaishi's eyes. It turned out because he wanted to please her, he had bought many rare signed cards of Lee Kan, spending thousands of dollars without getting a single one. Huaishi saw right through it and knew the guy was scammed, so she angrily dragged him to the shop to make the owner refund the money. The three of them, Ruanyu, Lee Kan, and Susong, came back from the busy market and heard Lee Shan strumming the guitar super chill. At first, Lee Shan was going to reveal that this was a song written by Lee Kan, but seeing the guy wink and signal to hide it, he had to lie that it was written by a senior. Ruanyu praised the melody for sounding very deep and full of emotion. Originally, Lee Kan wasn't too happy with this piece of music, but after hearing Ruanyu's praise, he had more motivation to keep perfecting it. After that, Lee Shan confessed to Lee Kan that he really liked this melody, saying it sounded sweet like being in love and would be perfect for confession. In the following days, Ruanyu constantly walked around the traditional handicraft shops in the old town to feel the beauty of folk culture. Meanwhile, Susong and Chunhui were busy providing free legal advice, wholeheartedly helping the people solve their troubles. Lee Kan was also full of inspiration, focusing intensely to finish composing his music. Everyone had their own task, busy but very happy, and the meaningful time just flew by. These past few days, Lu Mao kept texting to check in and care for Shanyu, but the girl just acted like she didn't see them, ghosting the guy. Out of options and desperate, he had to run to Sister Zhang for help on what to do next. Sister Zhang gave him a tip that being handsome isn't as good as being thick-skinned. Just stick to her and absolutely don't give up. In a blink of an eye, it was almost the Lunar New Year, and the company kept pushing Susong to hurry back. As for Ruanyu, because her parents had planned a trip through the new year, she decided to stay in the old town to experience a totally different new year. Seeing that, Susong politely shooed Chunhui to go back first, while he firmly stayed behind to celebrate New Year with Ruanyu. Lee Kan also asked the company for leave with the excuse that being in the old town helped his inspiration flow, and obviously, the guy also stayed here to welcome the new year. After a few days of interaction, the villagers were incredibly grateful to Susong, so they brought many local specialties to gift him to show their appreciation. On this side, Ruanyu accidentally witnessed a couple in the village arguing, and she suddenly felt a bit sad. After all, nobody is perfect, and everyone has their own flaws. When the couple's child found out the parents were about to divorce, she went to Susong for advice. parents getting a divorce is always a big shock to kids. Seeing the girl's heartbreaking look, Susong couldn't help but remember the scene of how his little sister, Huai, sure cried her eyes out when their parents got a divorce back then. At that time, he followed his dad to live overseas, so he had to be away from his mom and sister, but luckily everyone is living very well now. He used to think that if parents just try to endure living together for the sake of the kids, yet argue every day, it's better just firmly break up so each person can have their own happy life and love the kids together. That would probably be much better. Hearing that Susong's parents had divorced, Shanyu finally woke up to the truth. It turned out back then, after graduation, the reason he firmly went overseas was because of family issues, not because he was purposely avoiding her. A feeling of unexplainable heartache rose up in Shanyu's heart. She felt for his wandering, unstable life over all these years. So, she gathered all her courage to ask him why the relationship between him and his mom was as tense as fire and water. Susong frowned slightly, guessing it was probably because he chose to go with his dad back then. That night, Susong gently took Shanyu back to her room. Under the dim yellow light, Shanyu gathered all her guts and shyly invited him to stay and welcome New Year's Eve together. Meanwhile, Liken's new song was successfully finished. The guy was so happy he couldn't wait anymore, immediately dragging Lishan over to listen to it to ask for feedback on his brainchild. After listening, Lishan didn't hold back and praised it to the max. Speaking of Shanyu, she kept thinking back to her school years. One time she was kept after class by a teacher. While a few friends were scratching their heads over a hard math problem, Susong showed up like a lifesaver. Even though he already knew how to do it, he lied that he still didn't quite understand, so he could ask the teacher to patiently explain it one more time. He didn't know that it was exactly that thoughtfulness and care that made Shanyu's feelings for him grow deeper and deeper. New Year's Eve quietly approached, and everyone gathered in the yard for some lively talk. Susong and Liken volunteered to hang the red couplets. But actually, the two rivals were secretly bickering, neither backing down. The result was the couplets were hung one high and one low, all crooked and slanted. After that, the two guys were given the task of preparing the chicken. Facing the chicken that was jumping all around, the two male gods were clumsy with their hands and feet, making a whole mess, chickens flying and dogs barking. The whole area was in total chaos. That night, the villagers excitedly put their hands together and prayed, hoping for a peaceful new year. As for Susong's wish, it was both simple and pure. He only hoped he could become a soulmate, where there was nothing he couldn't share with Shanyu. After finishing the New Year's Eve dinner, the bubbly and cute little girl, Xiao Huan, dragged Susong and Shanyu around the busy street. The place was hung with bright lights and flowers, every corner filled with the bustling atmosphere of the new year. Meanwhile, Liken chose to stay in the yard alone, carefully decorating the scene to prepare for his confession. But hearing Lishan's kind reminder, he suddenly realized he couldn't give Susong a chance to fish in troubled waters. So he hurriedly and frantically ran after them. On the side of the road, there was a very special performance of iron fireworks dancing. The bright sparks shooting into the air made Shanyu unconsciously remember the romantic moment when she watched fireworks with Susong many years ago. While she was lost in thought, she was accidentally bumped by a passerby. Fast as a flash, Susong reached out and hugged her tight. This super sweet scene was caught entirely by Liken's eyes. His heart sank, and feeling sad, he quietly turned around and left. Back at the homestay, because Lishan wanted to ship Liken, he went out of his way to prepare a super romantic confession space. Who would be, he thought that as soon as Liken got back, he coldly told him to tear it all down. Seeing him lock himself in his room, Lishan was worried sick and had to run to ask Shanyu for help. When Shanyu walked into the room, Liken finally confessed that over the past few years, work pressure had weighed on him like a mountain. Shanyu totally understood that the life of a star is always surrounded by countless rules and restrictions, so she gently advised and encouraged him to live true to his heart. Their whole conversation was secretly eavesdropped on by Susong from outside, almost getting caught red-handed. The guy quickly made an excuse that he was exercising, so he barely passed the test. Thanks to Shanyu's patient comfort, Liken felt like he found a light in the middle of a dark night. He got his spirit back, walked out of the room casually, and decided he would host a small charity concert right in the old town while singing his latest song for everyone there that day. But actually, with his sharp ears, Susong knew very well that this song was the heart and soul that Liken wrote specifically for Shanyu. Liken sang a new song for the villagers with a lot of emotion. However, Susong sharply noticed that this song was actually written specifically for Shanyu. While everyone was deeply enjoying the melodious tune, Liken's mind was filled with every little memory of being by Shanyu's side. This was also like a quiet goodbye that he sent to her through this song filled with deep feelings. 6 days later, Lu Mao went to find Shanyu. At first glance, she mistakenly thought he was a delivery guy bringing food. When she found out he brought cake to visit, she just wanted to immediately draw a line with him. so she firmly told him to go home. That day, Susong happily took Ruanyu home and carefully gave her a gourd that he made with his own hands. Actually, Ruanyu also prepped a special gift. She gave him back a gourd that she painted herself. Susong gathered all his courage to walk her all the way up to her house. When turning to leave, he kept hesitating, lingering because he didn't want to go home. Before leaving, he expressed his hope that Ruanyu could keep being persistent in writing her novel. Ruanyu playfully replied that whether she keeps writing or not depends on whether the male lead's performance is outstanding. Hearing that, Susong got the point right away, thumping his chest and promising that the male lead would definitely keep putting in the effort. At the same time, Shaning's house suddenly had a power outage. In the middle of the pitch-black space, Lu Mao snatched this golden chance to come over and help fix it. Who knew he would accidentally trip, causing the two of them to have another face-to-face contact that made them blush like crazy. Both of their minds unconsciously remembered that sketchy scene they shared that night, making the vibe suddenly turn awkward as they didn't know where to hide their faces. As for Ruanyu, after getting home, she couldn't get a hold of Shanning, so she anxiously tried to contact Zhang Chuan. Unexpectedly, the voice of a strange woman rang out from the other end. Because of that, she found out that Shanning had firmly broken up with Zhang Chuan. Ruanyu happily clapped and praised the news, straight up saying her friend should have dumped that jerk who was bad from head to toe much earlier. After fixing the light bulb, Lu Mao acted very sincere, saying he didn't want to go home, but only wanted to stay to keep Shanning company. But the girl still coldly shooed the guest away, so Lu Mao could only leave sadly. Right at this moment, because she was so worried about her friend's safety, Ruanyu hurriedly ran downstairs to Shun Ing's place. Afraid her friend would misunderstand her relationship with Lu Mao, Shanning frantically hid Lu Mao away. Ruanyu specifically brought back a fancy bottle of perfume from the old town to gift Shanning. She walked into the bedroom, testing out the perfume while excitedly talking about her detailed plan to introduce a new boyfriend to her bestie. At this time, Lu Mao had to hide in the closet. Both his legs were already numb, and in his heart, he kept praying Ruanyu would leave quickly. Shanning was also afraid he would be exposed, so she had to rack her brain to find enough excuses to politely shoo her friend away. Finally, Ruanyu agreed to leave, and Lu Mao limped painfully out of the closet. Even so, he still proudly made a vow, firmly claiming that he would try his best to reach the ideal boyfriend standard in Shaning's heart. Meanwhile, Susong very pamperingly gave his favorite model to his little sister. Huaishi's head was filled only with the sweet love story of her brother and Ruanyu, so she was incredibly eager. The little girl seriously warned her brother that there are some things that, once missed, can never be fixed in a lifetime. Ruanyu's novel was unexpectedly about to be signed by another company. The chief editor was incredibly worried Ruanyu would break the contract, so she didn't show any mercy and rushed her to submit the manuscript very quickly. She even prepped a backup plan, looking for a ghostwriter to finish the rest of the current novel for her. However, Ruanyu was very determined, claiming she would finish it smoothly and on time, telling the chief editor not to worry too much about other things. Seeing Ruanyu angry, the chief editor secretly cheered inside, feeling like her goal was reached, so she just sat back casually waiting for the novel to be finished. That day, LV Lamb just traveled back from America and went straight to Susong's house. As soon as she walked through the door, the cat that was usually lazy now acted incredibly clingy, constantly circling and rubbing against her legs. Seeing this scene, and then thinking about the childhood sweetheart relationship between Susong and LV Lamb, a sour feeling of jealousy couldn't help but rise up in Ruanyu's heart. Clearly, LV Lamb also secretly saw Ruanyu as a love rival. She acted like it was no big deal, saying she ordered 2 portions of takeout following their old habit, and even purposely brought up staying at their usual hotel and told Susong to pick her up tomorrow. The next day, Ruanyu brought a bit of nervousness and excitement to the law firm to report to Susong, confidently announcing she would be his assistant. After hearing that, Susong's face was totally blank, not understanding why she suddenly decided that. It turned out, Ruanyu wanted to use the excuse of getting novel material to write the next part for the male and female leads. Knowing the reason, Susong was very supportive. However, he pulled out a contract and seriously announced that she had to stay and work as his assistant for 1 year. Ruanyu happily agreed, then excitedly took a tour around the law office. Coincidentally, today Lawyer Wu was also officially promoted. He was transferred back from America and for now on became Ruanyu's colleague. As for LV Lamb, she went to the company and handed over the whole pile of case files that had been stacking up high lately to Susong. The two of them walked into the meeting room together, starting to discuss work with passion. At this time, Ruanyu was so jealous she wanted to flip over the whole jealousy jar. She secretly hid in a corner to watch the two of them, seeing that pair talking so perfectly in sync and occasionally getting close to each other. A fire of jealousy suddenly flared up in Ruanyu's heart. Immediately, she brought in some tea, trying to act calm as she walked into the meeting room, and then used the excuse of needing to take notes on the content to sit there stubbornly. This smells like gunpowder scene became a hot topic of gossip among the co-workers in the company in a blink of an eye. Lawyer Wu was naturally a very sharp person. Seeing the vibe was a bit off, he had an idea and used the excuse of work to enthusiastically take LV Lam home, basically helping Susong out of the jam. As for Yu, obviously, she was taken home personally by Susong. On the way, even though the two didn't say a word to each other, the vibe was a bit suggestive and awkward. That night, LV Lam lay alone in bed, her head constantly seeing the scene of Yu sitting comfortably at Susong's house. She had vaguely guessed that Yu was exactly the girl that Susong always kept in his heart. Remembering back in the meeting room, Susong seemed to care for her and look after Yu openly, so she couldn't hold back, and tears soaked her whole pillow. One day, Susong used the excuse of needing a quiet space to work, so he decided to work online. Seeing that, Yu also sat down to focus on writing with a peaceful mind. Whenever she got tired of writing, she would turn to tease the cute cat. Looking at the cat's silly and clingy appearance, her mood also became very relaxed. She also specifically ordered the fried chicken and Coke that Susong liked to eat. The two sat on the sofa together, eating good food and chatting happily. The scene at that time was as sweet and warm as a newlywed couple. At the same time, Lu Mao put in a lot of effort and finally got Shanyu out for a date. The guy was like an obedient tail, trying his best to please her by ordering all the dishes she liked. However, Shanyu used all sorts of excuses to politely turn him down. Her attitude was very firm, clearly wanting to draw a line. She also said in a flat tone that the thing that happened that night was in the past. No need to bring it up again. Although Lu Mao could understand her attitude, he still couldn't control the longing in his heart. Finally, he had to sincerely apologize for bothering her over the past few days. After work that afternoon, Susong left with Yu. However, the elevator suddenly had a malfunction. Yu panicked and grabbed his hand tight. There was a girl in the elevator who was so terrified she wouldn't stop screaming, saying she didn't have a boyfriend yet and hoped nothing bad would happen to her. Yu stood nearby, encouraging the girl not to be too pessimistic, saying she didn't have a boyfriend either. Who knew the girl would say at least Yu had a pursuer, which left Yu speechless. Very soon after, they got outside. Susong paid attention to Yu's words earlier, so he asked her if she wanted a boyfriend. This sentence made Yu incredibly confused. She kept thinking about it the whole night, not knowing if he was confessing to her. So she texted her best friend for help. Hearing the situation, her best friend guessed right away that Susong was interested in her. After hearing that, Yu got even more confused. She wanted to text Susong to clear things up, but didn't dare to. Yu used the plots in her novel to subtly test Susong, asking if it was time for the female lead to start dating and have a boyfriend. Actually, deep down, she was really looking forward to checking his attitude toward her. Who would have thought? Susong texted back saying he would introduce a boyfriend to her. At that moment, a feeling of being wronged rushed up. Yu was sure that he didn't have any feelings for her at all. But she didn't know that text was actually sent by LV Lam, who had secretly used Susong's computer to reply. As for Susong, when he walked out of the bathroom, he accidentally saw on the chat that Yu had just recalled a message. He found it very hard to understand, and of course didn't know that someone had impersonated him to text her. Susong anxiously called Yu right away, but she kept the content of the recalled message a total secret. This made him feel incredibly uneasy, like a layer of fog was covering his heart. He hurried to her house to explain that the text wasn't sent by him. Right as she opened the door, he hugged her tight in his arms, asking what message she recalled. Yu had to tell the truth. Who knew? Susong took this chance to deeply confess his love to her right on the spot. Yu was both moved and shy, so she quickly texted her best friend Shanyu for help on what to do. That night, Lu Mao was also incredibly happy when he officially entered the probationary period as Shan's boyfriend. The guy was so happy his hands were shaking, and he hurriedly signed the love contract right away. The next morning, Susong arrived downstairs at Yu's house very early. He even thoughtfully prepped breakfast and waited to take her to work. Last night, Yu just casually said, "Let us see how you perform," not expecting he would take the trouble to drive a very long way just to buy the shumai that she liked to eat most. This dedication made Yu feel incredibly sweet. Right at this moment, Susong's dad's illness suddenly turned for the worse. Yu personally booked the flight ticket and went to the airport to see him off. The two of them hugged each other lingeringly at the airport. Time felt like it froze right at that moment. Susong rushed to the hospital. While he was seriously ill, his dad still gripped a family photo, like it was his last support and bit of warmth. Luckily, the surgery was very successful, but he still needed to stay overseas to recover for a while. This made Susong carry a heavy load of worry. The next day, Yu took the initiative to take Susong's cat home to care for it wholeheartedly like her own precious. At the same time, her novel also released a new chapter. This was the intense plot that fans have been looking forward to for a long time, so it immediately created a wave of heated discussion online. Finally, Ruanyu's dedicated novel reached its end. Right at this moment, LV Lam suddenly returned to the country. She aggressively asked for a face-to-face meeting with Ruanyu, acting like she felt sorry for Susong as she talked about his hard work over the past few months. Things like how he had to care for his seriously ill dad while carrying a mountain of work, and even had to cut down on his rest time to text and chat with Ruanyu. LV Lam acted like she couldn't bear it, recounting the hardships Susong had to taste before becoming a lawyer. It was so hard for him to get the achievements he has now. She said she didn't want to see him give it all up for Ruanyu to come back and start over, let alone see him exhausted in health because of a long-distance relationship with a time difference. Every word acted like she was worried for him. Huaishir came to Ruanyu's house, crying in pain. Because of the novel's ending, she specifically came to speak up for her brother, her eyes full of eagerness and hope. She told Ruanyu the reason their parents divorced. Years ago, her dad took on a complicated case and was blamed by suspects and the public for no reason. Her mom, unable to bear the massive public pressure, firmly demanded a divorce. Ruanyu gently comforted Huaishir, advising her that if she wanted to understand the truth, she couldn't just listen to one-sided words, but had to find out for herself. Ruanyu also explained further that although her novel had an incomplete ending, there was still an exciting spin-off story coming after. It was just that after hearing LV Lam's words, she didn't know how to keep writing for a moment, and her heart was in a total mess. Ruanyu unexpectedly found the USB she had lost by mistake. Putting everything together, she vaguely guessed that Sensei must have been the one who snuck into her computer. Meanwhile, Lishan's new song suddenly went viral all over social media. Riding that wave of success, he firmly decided to switch careers and won't take any more commercial jobs from now on. That night, Ruanyu remembered how Susong's family had to get a divorce because of a messy case, and she suddenly felt a lot of emotions. She went online to look into the shocking murder case of a female student from years ago. Unexpectedly, back then, it was Susong's dad who stepped up to defend the suspect and helped clear his name. But because of that, his family was gossiped about and pointed at by neighbors, and their house was even splashed with bright red paint. As for Susong, he stayed by his dad's side every day, patiently caring for him in the hospital. Thanks to his dedication, his dad's condition slowly got better. He also used this time to study hard for the domestic bar exam, determined to return home to grow his career. The next day, while Ruanyu was packing to visit her parents, she suddenly got terrible news. Her dad was being held hostage by Zhou Jun. Right now, Zhou Jun was dragging her dad all the way up to the rooftop. Hearing from her mom, Ruanyu found out that Zhou Jun had just broken up with his girlfriend, and while her parents were trying hard to comfort him, he suddenly snapped and turned to kidnap her dad to blow off steam. At this moment, Zhou Jun was incredibly panicked and aggressive, refusing to listen to anyone's advice. Seeing this, Ruanyu decisively asked to step forward to try and find a way to calm him down. As soon as he saw Ruanyu coming, Zhou Jun quickly claimed that he didn't kill Yao Xian, and he didn't understand why before she died. Yao Xian pointed him out as the killer. Ruanyu gently said she believed him, and maybe he just remembered some details wrong. It was very likely that Yao Xian's call at that time was a cry for help, because he was the only person she trusted. Those soft, reasonable words actually made Zhou Jun calm down. He slowly put down the weapon and obediently let the police take him away. Ruanyu's dad finally escaped danger, safe and sound. Mrs. Ruan was still in total shock and fear. Seeing that, Ruanyu sadly took her parents back to her house to rest, then quickly called to tell the whole story to Susong. Knowing his girlfriend's family was safe, Susong finally breathed a sigh of relief. His nerves had been as tight as a bowstring until now. And only at this moment did he realize his legs had turned to jelly and his stomach was aching sharply. Over the phone, the two confessed how much they deeply missed each other, and it was super sweet. Ruanyu still found it hard to accept the cruel truth of Yao Xian's passing. Just the last time they met at the company, she was still laughing and talking happily. She didn't believe Yao Xian was so desperate that she would end her life just because of a fight with Zhou Jun. Her heart was filled with endless grief. The next day, on the way back to the city, the longing for Susong in Ruanyu's heart surged again. She decisively bought a plane ticket, planning to go visit him in person. However, before she could leave, she got unexpected good news. Susong had returned to the country. At this time, Sushir, feeling full of guilt, sent Ruanyu the old phone her brother used back in school. It kept every little detail of the feelings he had for her. The girl also gathered all her courage to apologize to Ruanyu, admitting she was the one who framed her for plagiarism years ago. Reviewing the memories Susong kept in the phone, with every text message pointing toward her, Ruanyu suddenly woke up. It turned out the handhold on the night of the graduation party was entirely a setup he did on purpose. She quickly flipped through her old yearbook. That day, she took the book to class to find him, but the two of them passed each other by. Who would have thought Susong had already written a message and secretly tucked it into her book long ago? Only until this moment did she know that the anonymous note was actually a deep confession of love he had for her. Ruanyu's head was filled with warm memories since the day they met again, making her unable to hold back her tears of emotion. Susong suddenly came back from abroad, and right at this time, Ruanyu happened to find out he had a secret crush on her since they were in school. Super touched, Ruanyu decided to start their journey of getting to know each other again. Finally, Susong gathered all his courage to confess his love in a very deep way and gently kissed her. Ironically, this romantic moment was interrupted at the wrong time by the security guard. That night, both of them leisurely drank Coke and ate fried chicken together, drowning in old school memories. Ruanyu even playfully teased that his status had to level up now, and he couldn't just be the lead in a novel anymore. Saying that, she pulled out the pajamas she had prepared and invited him to stay at her house. Even though Susong pretended to focus on work in the living room, his mind had long ago run wild like an escaped horse, flying all the way to Ruanyu. As for Ruanyu, she couldn't sleep at all, her heart full of sweet flutters. Susong slowly walked into the room, and as the two chatted back and forth, the vibe gradually turned suggestive. Finally, Susong couldn't hold back the burning love in his heart anymore and gave her a deep kiss. Just like that, they had a sweet, unforgettable night. The next morning, Susong woke up early to prepare a proper breakfast for Ruanyu. Who would have thought Ruanyu's parents would come to visit their daughter so early, making both sides freeze on spot? Flustered, Susong quickly got slippers for them. He planned to go up and wake Ruanyu, but felt his current status wasn't appropriate, so he had to let Mrs. Ruan go up to call her. During the meal, Ruanyu's parents kept asking Susong all sorts of things. He also honestly said he planned to return home to grow his career. Hearing that, Ruanyu's parents were visibly happy, seeing him as their accepted future son-in-law. After that, Ruanyu worriedly asked Susong about work. She really didn't have the heart to let him give up the achievements he worked so hard for abroad. Actually, she had also thought about going abroad to visit him. However, Susong had already made up his mind to develop at home. Plus, when his dad was seriously ill, he gripped a family photo in his hand, his eyes clearly longing to return to his hometown. He was just following the plan he had set from the start. Watching Ruanyu and Susong walk away properly hand in hand, Ruanyu's parents couldn't help but start talking about their daughter's marriage. Seeing Susong's mature personality and how much he loved their daughter, the two were very satisfied and happily agreed to let the two be together. Ruanyu and Susong also publicly held hands as they walked into the company, and co-workers all looked at them with eyes full of admiration. At the same time, Sister Zhang went to the prison and unexpectedly became the defense lawyer for Zhou Jun. According to the investigation, that day Zhou Jun and Yao Xian had a very heated fight because he suspected Yao Xian was having an affair. The two often fought nonstop about this. On the day of the murder, he got off the car in the suburbs, his phone was dead, and he had no choice but to go to teacher's house. But right after that, he got the terrible news that Yao Xian was killed. Yao Xian's case was much more complicated than it looked. Sister Zhang saw that Susong was very capable in this field, so she asked him to join the case, but he used all sorts of excuses to politely decline. After that, Minon brought a lunchbox. She prepped herself to visit Lu Mao, but unluckily got caught by Ruanyu. She was afraid her relationship with Lu Mao would be exposed, so she quickly lied that she was there to bring food to Ruanyu. Susong, being so smart, saw right through the weirdness between the two of them with one glance. He purposely suggested that everyone should eat a meal together. As a result, during the meal, those two racked their brains trying to hide it. But the more they hid, the more suspicious things became. Susong's sudden move to join Yao Xian's complicated case made Lu Mao incredibly happy. Actually, Susong also smartly used this case to dig deeper into his dad's unsolved wrongful case from years ago. That day, Yao Xian's family was so upset they aggressively stormed into the law office to make a scene. Looking at the chaotic scene in front of him, Susong suddenly dazed out, feeling like he was back in those haunting days as a kid when his family was surrounded by aggressive people. But under Ruanyu's encouraging and trusting eyes, he got his courage back to face them. He sincerely explained things to Yao Xian's parents, promising to bring her justice and determined not to let the killer walk free. After a lot of advising, he finally calmed down their family's anger. Once that was done, Susong seriously told his colleagues that in this job, you must know how to put yourself in the client's shoes and always try to be a lawyer with a heart and a conscience. Because they took Yao Xian's case, which was being watched by the public, the heat of public opinion immediately pointed at the law office, with everyone condemning them for protecting Zhou Jun. Meanwhile, his little sister Su Shi was bullied by classmates at school. Getting too angry at being called a killer's accomplice for no reason, she and Zhao Ji impulsively fought back. As a result, they were disciplined by the school and asked to bring in their parents. Hearing the news, Susong and Ruanyu were as anxious as fire and hurried to the school. Afraid that Susong would act impulsively because he was too emotional, Ruanyu took the lead to go into the teacher's office to handle the situation. She smartly pretended to frame that boy for cheating on an exam, using it as an example to show that framing someone as a killer was just as terrible. The boy was left speechless and had to bow his head and apologize sincerely, and the conflict between the two sides was solved. Seeing her brother show up in time to protect her, Su Shi was incredibly touched. This incident also helped the little girl not feel insecure or scared anymore. Remembering how she used to be criticized by people when she was little, now she had learned how to bravely fight back to protect herself. During the scuffle, Zhao Ji unluckily got a hand injury. Su Shi was worried and dragged him to the clinic to disinfect the wound, but he felt this tiny injury was nothing and there was no need to overreact. In Zhao Ji's head, he suddenly remembered the scene of the first time they met. At that time, he had just finished a fight and looked a mess when he accidentally was seen by Su Shi. The little girl thought he was planning to get revenge, so she hid away in fear. Later she found out he was actually just standing up for justice. Today, Susong personally went to school to pick up his sister. Su Shi sadly said that lately their mom was very bothered and often gloomy. The little girl hoped her brother would take Zhou Jun's case, but keep it a secret from their mom for now. However, as soon as they got back to the apartment complex, the two siblings found their mom being pointed at and gossiped about by neighbors. Susong's situation of defending a suspect now was exactly as difficult as his dad's years ago. Mrs. Hua was incredibly angry. Remembering back then, she also used to firmly support her husband as a defense lawyer for a suspect. Even though they finally won the case, they didn't expect the family would have to bear the public backlash and revenge from the victim's family. Because she couldn't take that horrible pressure, she had to swallow her bitterness and choose to divorce. Ruanyu gently but firmly comforted them, saying that although public opinion spreads fast and has a big impact, today's investigation techniques are very modern and grow every day, so maybe the truth would be brought to light soon. She patiently encouraged Susong to get his spirit back and not let the current difficulties knock him down. Right the next day, Susong got a call from Uncle Yang reporting shocking news. The real killer in his dad's case from years ago had been found. After so many years, the net of heaven is vast, and though its meshes are wide, nothing slips through. Justice finally showed up. His dad was right back then. He had successfully protected an innocent person from a wrongful sentence. The news also timely announced the truth of the matter, giving the public a satisfying answer. Going through so many storms, Susong and his mom finally made up. The mother and son went to the familiar cafe from years ago, and the old scenery brought back so many memories. Mrs. Hua had been looked down on and treated coldly by people for so many years. Now she could finally hold her head high and live confidently. Also thanks to this, she finally understood the hardships of being a lawyer, the hard work and responsibility in her son's job, and from then on wholeheartedly supported Susong in representing Zhou Jun. That day, Mrs. Hua dressed up nicely and went to the market happily. The neighbors also completely changed their cold attitude from before, with everyone taking the initiative to smile and greet her. As for the romance, that day Ruanyu and Shanyu thoughtfully brought lunchboxes to Susong and Lu Mao. Lu Mao secretly slipped down to the parking lot without knowing his sketchy move was already caught by the sharp Ruanyu. Ruanyu was very decisive, immediately catching them red-handed and forcing Shanyu to confess since when she had been dating Lu Mao. Her eyes were so firm that her best friend couldn't deny it anymore. Facing Ruanyu's questioning, Lu Mao sweated buckets, explaining to everyone that his shameless pursuit of Shanyu was totally voluntary, and he forbade anyone from spreading rumors. Both of them raised their hands and promised not to let this happen again. As soon as they finished, all four burst out laughing, and Ruanyu decided to let it go. At the same time, Su Shi was having a headache over some high school dating rumors. Apparently, the other day, her classmate, Zhao, stood up to protect her from bullies. So the whole class started gossiping like crazy. The girl was so annoyed she didn't talk to that boy for 3 days straight. After hearing the story, Ruanyu used her experience as an adult to give some advice. She said that running away doesn't solve problems. You should face them bravely. At this age, having crushes is totally normal, so there's no need to be ashamed. The most important thing is that when you look back later, you won't feel any regrets. Just as expected, right after her advice, Zhao, he was trailing behind Su Shi. He brought a milk tea, playfully complaining about not talking for so long while trying to strike up a conversation using a test paper. In a flustered moment, he suddenly asked about the future, like if she would be sad if they didn't go to the same school or live in the same city, and he also suggested taking the college entrance exam for the same university. Facing that question, even though Su Shi was embarrassed, she finally gathered her courage and agreed to apply for the same school as him. Meanwhile, Yu went to the Huan Shi group for a script meeting, but right in the lobby, she bumped into Yao Han, who was also there for an audition. She wished her friend luck, not knowing that Yao Han was walking right into a tigress den. When she walked into the company, Yu overheard employees gossiping about how Yao Han was once Wei Jin's right-hand assistant, but was quickly replaced after she passed away. People also mentioned that Wei Jin's cold smile gave everyone the creeps. Thinking back to Yao Han's case, the police suspected she was physically violated before she died, which made her react strongly to any physical contact. So Yu started to suspect that Wei Jin was also involved in the case. That afternoon after work, Yu shared an elevator with Wei Jin and Yao Han. However, Wei Jin's behavior was totally inappropriate. He put his arm around Yao Han and even complimented her on how good she smelled. Yu was shocked, and as she left, she noticed that Yao Han's eyes looked like she was crying out for help. Back home, she told Lekin about this and asked him to tell Wei Jin. Soon after, he called back to report that he just saw Wei Jin taking Yao Han home in what looked like a forced situation, which made Yu very worried. Facing this tricky situation, she didn't dare call the police right away because she was afraid that if it was a misunderstanding, it would seriously hurt Yao Han's career. But she couldn't just ignored either. She came up with a plan and set off the building's fire alarm by making some smoke in the kitchen. The fire alarm went off immediately. The sprinkler system started working, causing chaos in the whole building and forcing everyone to evacuate. The fire alarm blared loudly, and the automatic sprinklers went off, soaking everything. The whole building was in a panic, and the management had to get all the residents to evacuate through the stairs. While everyone was running down in a panic, Susong rushed up to the higher floors alone, ignoring the danger. Even though residents tried to stop him, he insisted on going in because his girlfriend was there. Later, when he found out the fire was just a fake one she made, he didn't scold her at all. Instead, he felt proud that she knew how to protect herself and help others. Yu then went to apologize to the neighbors, and everyone was understanding. They even teased that she was lucky to have a boyfriend who worried so much about her. Watching Susong help her apologize and even bow to everyone, Yu was deeply moved. After dealing with the fake fire alarm, Yu rushed to find Yao Han and found her in a total panic. Yao Han burst into tears and told her what happened. Wei Jin had praised her acting and then used the excuse of a dinner with the director to help her get a lead role. The dinner seemed normal, so she let her guard down. However, when he took her back to her apartment, he showed his true colors and tried to do something disgusting. Luckily, the fire alarm Yu set off stopped the situation just in time. Yao Han fell into a state of guilt and fear. She was worried that if she called the police, people would question why she let him in her house. Because she was afraid of hurting her career, she didn't dare fight back from the start and missed the chance to safely refuse. That made her blame herself, fearing that others would judge her as easy and think it was her own fault. Back home, Susong praised his girlfriend for doing a great job today. Because of the fire alarm mess, Yu couldn't eat dinner, so he took her out for a meal and then took her home. Realizing Susong had seen Lekin calling her, Yu dragged him inside to explain everything. Hearing her words, the jealousy in Susong's heart faded away. He stepped forward and gave her a kiss, and just like that, they spent a sweet night together. The next morning, Yao Han called Yu. After thinking about it all night, she decided to expose Wei Jin's true face. But deep down, Yao Han still thought it was her fault. Susong stepped up to be her lawyer. He advised her that legal consent must be based on equality and being completely voluntary, not influenced by force, threats, or lies. In situations with a power imbalance, the victim's silence or inability to fight back doesn't mean consent. The second Yao Han resisted, she clearly showed her refusal, and if the other person continued, that was sexual assault. Yu also comforted her, saying that no one is perfect and Yao Han's fearful reactions were just very human. She believed that society shouldn't demand a perfect victim before showing empathy. Instead, they need to see clearly that the one who purposely breaks the law is the one at fault. Hearing these words gave Yao Han even more motivation to expose Wei Jin. In the interrogation room, Wei Jin acted arrogant and casually denied all the charges. He justified it by saying it was just a one-night stand that didn't happen and accused Yao Han of setting him up. Wei Jin even argued that if she didn't want it, she wouldn't have let him take her home at midnight and invite him inside, implying it was a sign of consent between two adults. When the police yelled at him to take things seriously, Wei Jin still acted shameless and arrogant. He kept making excuses, claiming that Yao Han letting him in was proof of consent, and purposely twisted the situation by saying her struggles were just personal kinks for thrill between the two of them. He even showed off some scratches on his body to justify himself, and even acted annoyed for being interrupted and asked for his lawyer, totally refusing to admit any wrongdoing. Wei Jin's cunning excuses and his powerful legal team left the police stuck in a deadlock. The medical exam didn't show signs of serious physical impact because the incident was stopped in time, making things disadvantageous for Yao Han. The investigation time was super tight. The police only had 12 hours to find evidence strong enough to bust Wei Jin's story, or they'd be forced to let him go. Right when Wei Jin was released, the police immediately arrested him again, thanks to a new breakthrough. Before that, Susong and Ruanyu had analyzed the whole case together. Ruanyu noticed that Yao Xin's bracelet looked just like the gift Wei Jin once gave to Yao Han, which helped them piece the clues together. Susong deduced that Wei Jin was a calculating predator, but the lack of fingerprints at the scene raised a big question. From there, Susong came up with a key theory. The killer wasn't super sophisticated, he just simply had a habit of wearing gloves. Checking the elevator cameras, he found that Wei Jin often wore leather gloves, which matched the fact that no fingerprints were found at the scene. These seemingly random details, when put together, became important evidence that helped flip the situation and charge him. The police quickly recovered the audio recording that Wei Jin had deleted at the scene, clearing everything up. In the recording, Yao Xin left some desperate words for her parents, showing that she always lived under the pressure of having to prove herself. After trying hard to get into a big company, she fell into the hands of Wei Jin, who used his power to harass and manipulate her with money and her career. Refusing to give in, Yao Xin collected evidence and tried to confront him, threatening to report him to the police to protect herself. However, this made Wei Jin angry, so he killed her to shut her up. With the solid evidence from the recording and other clues, he was forced to bow his head and confess. The case was solved, Zhou Jun was cleared, justice was served, and Susong's law firm also became well known because of it. After the stressful days of solving the case, Susong and Ruanyu's lives gradually returned to peace. That day, Susong personally went into the kitchen to prep dinner for his girlfriend. The next morning, they both went to the park for a date, joined a workshop, and had a blast racing cars together. While waiting for her boyfriend to buy ice cream, Ruanyu took the chance to write down these peaceful moments in her diary. However, the peace didn't last long when a new incident blew up on social media. Famous male idol Lee Can suddenly ended his contract with a management company on his own, causing a huge stir. He quickly became the target of criticism, being hit with many accusations like being ungrateful and fake, and there were even rumors that he had to sell assets to pay for the contract penalty. While the public turned their backs on Lee Can, Ruanyu still trusted him and took the initiative to contact him to find out the truth. Through their conversation, she learned that his old company was purposely spreading fake news to push him down and blacklist him. Stuck in a tough spot, Lee Can had to hide in a hotel to avoid the media, but the risk of being caught was still very high. To help him, Ruanyu came up with the idea of bringing Lee Can to stay temporarily at Susong's house. Lee Can's sudden appearance made Susong's normally neat life a mess. He clearly showed his annoyance and jealousy, constantly keeping his distance. Even though Susong said make yourself at home, he didn't let Lee Can use his girlfriend's stuff and even asked him to use disposable paper cups. In the evening, the air at Susong's house continued to get tense when Tian demanded to sleep on the bed. Even though he reluctantly agreed, Susong still kept his distance by drawing a clear boundary, requiring Lee Can stay on only half the bed and not cross over. This made Lee Can feel annoyed, and he pushed back. Finally, to avoid arguments and keep the peace, Susong decided to give up the room and brought his own pillow to sleep on the sofa. The next morning, when Susong visited, Ruanyu saw he was tired from having to sleep on the sofa last night. Taking that chance, he smoothly complained to make his girlfriend soften up. Ruanyu immediately cared for him, helping him with a massage and taking good care of him, while Susong took the chance to act like a baby to be pampered more. While they were being all sweet, a text arrived. It turned out Su Shi found a loophole in the article smearing Lee Can, so she asked her brother to help her idol clear his name. After seeing that Lee Can's situation was stabilizing, Susong decided to step up and help. He reassured Lee Can that he could stay there in peace and focus on his life, while the legal stuff would be handled by a great lawyer he would find. With Susong stepping in, Tian's case started to have hope of being handled in a more positive way. After that, Susong went straight to see Tian's management company to negotiate. From the start, the company acted arrogant, looking down on him and believing they held all the power. The big boss even openly challenged him, thinking that even with a lawsuit, Susong couldn't do anything to them. Facing the opponent's challenging attitude, Susong stayed calm, pulled out the contract documents, and pointed out the unfair clauses the company had forced on the artist, exposing their behavior of bullying and stripping away Lee Can's rights. Not stopping there, Susong also confirmed that his client had completed the obligation of paying the breach of contract penalty. At the same time, he brought out evidence showing that the advertising contracts the company arranged had signs of being untruthful, which seriously affected Lee Can's reputation. Facing sharp arguments and clear evidence, the company fell into a passive position and faced the risk of having to pay massive damages. Susong threw a decisive blow, hitting their financial interests, which made the old boss freak out, shifting from an active position to immediately backing down and asking for a negotiation. Under that pressure, Susong coldly gave his demand. The company must use their official account to post a correction to clear Lee Kun-es's name, otherwise he would take the case to court. Faced with the lawyer's sharp and tough arguments, the old boss was completely outmatched, making anyone watching feel satisfied. To win back his freedom, Lee Kun was forced to sell his car and even his house to gather enough money for the contract penalty. From a promising star, he fell into being broke, living like a man with nothing left in his hands. During his time of depression and loneliness, he realized that the manager he once trusted was actually just a fake who used him for profit. Even so, cutting off this relationship also made him feel relieved, like being freed from a heavy burden. On this side, while the screenwriter Shanyu, along with the director and the investor Boston, were having a headache looking for a suitable male lead for the movie Whispers, but no one met the requirements, Lee Kun suddenly appeared to audition after falling into unemployment. Not using lines, he chose to perform by playing the piano, combining his gaze, expressions, and even intentional wrong note to convey emotion. The delicate and authentic performance made everyone in the casting room amazed. When asked about his acting ability, Lee Kun admitted that it wasn't acting, but his deep understanding of unrequited love. Actually, Lee Kun-es's performance in the audition came from the feelings he had secretly kept for Shanyu for many years. He used the role to reveal the heart of a person who is always standing behind, loving one-sidedly but unable to say it. It was that authentic and emotional performance that quickly convinced the investors, helping him in a male lead role. While Lee Kun-es's career was gradually stabilizing, the love story of Susong and Shanyu also had a new step forward. On New Year's Eve, Susong brought gifts to meet his girlfriend's family, looking neat and elegant. Shanyu's mother seemed very satisfied and liked him a lot, constantly taking care of him during the meal. However, the toughest hurdle, named father-in-law, was still standing there. Waiting for a moment when no one was around, the father-in-law waved his hand to call Susong over to the tea table to talk heart-to-heart. The father-in-law pulled out a glass, and instead of pouring wine like usual, he poured him a glass of plain water. While drinking the water, he shared that before he wanted to marry Shanyu off to a lawyer, not because of reputation, but because he believed she needed someone brave enough to protect her. It turned out, for all these years, Shanyu's parents both knew about their daughter being an online writer and knew about her being bullied by anti-fans. But because she didn't want to open up, they had to pretend not to know to protect their daughter's self-esteem. But deep down, her father always hoped to find someone who could replace him as a shield for her. Someone knowledgeable, upright, without bad motives, and most importantly, someone who knows how to use a cold head to solve problems rather than impulsive violence. He also taught that life isn't like flashy movies or strong wine. For the most part, it's just ordinary days, sometimes as bland as a glass of water. Getting through brilliant moments is easy, but keeping patience and persistence in daily life is the most important thing. Hearing that, Susong couldn't help but reflect and expressed his respect, while seriously promising to use all his ability to protect Shanyu. Seeing his sincerity and determination, Shanyu's father was finally satisfied and let out a smile, accepting him as a worthy son-in-law. After eating and drinking their fill, Susong took Shanyu and snuck out of the house for a New Year's Eve date. Not taking her to a five-star restaurant or to watch fancy fireworks, the guy went big and led his girlfriend to break into their old high school. The quiet scene of the school at night made both of them feel nostalgic about their school youth memories. Susong led Shanyu to a secret room. When entering, she was surprised to see a large bookshelf containing all the novels she had read since high school. Shanyu was incredibly stunned to realize that Susong had secretly researched and kept all the books connected to her memories from a long time ago, instead of being cold like she once thought. He stepped closer and confessed that since she didn't even know him yet, he had always been watching her and secretly being by her side. He said she was the one who had lit up his life throughout the years. In the romantic atmosphere of New Year's Eve, Susong and Shanyu gradually got closer, almost having a sweet kiss. However, right at that moment, the light from the supervisor's flashlight suddenly shone directly at them, making them jump. The supervisor found them in the school at night, so he immediately chased them and yelled loudly. Susong and Shanyu frantically held hands and ran away through the hallway. Meanwhile, the supervisor was still chasing close behind, while also saying he had caught many other couples on New Year's Eve and wouldn't allow them to stay in the school. Going back in time to January 2012, the time when school dreams were still as floating as the first snow of the season. Shanyu back then was still an innocent schoolgirl, busily eavesdropping with Shanyu about the school as spiritual legend. The wall legend said that on the day of the first snow, if you sincerely put your hands together and make a wish from the bottom of your heart, fold a paper star and hang it on the twin trees. Then the universe will send a signal for that wish to come true. Yu immediately dragged her best friend to get paper for star folding right then and there. Shanyu sharply caught her best friend's hesitation right away. With eyes as accurate as a human camera, Shanyu captured Yu's gaze every time during exercise, always secretly turning to peek at class 10. From that, she guessed the person Yu liked was Susong. Being called out by her best friend, Yu was flustered, turned red, and tried to deny it. But when you're secretly in love like this but playing hard to get on the outside, how on earth can you hide it? Returning to the present, Susong no longer had those hidden flutters like in his student days, but had decided to create a grand marriage proposal to seal the deal with Yu. He prepared a romantic ceremony under a scene of bright fireworks, mobilizing hundreds of people, including a filming crew, director, and friends to create the most special New Year-esque countdown moment of his life. In that sparkling scene, he walked toward the girl with eyes full of affection. Susong revealed that for many years, she always thought she was the one-sided one chasing him. But in reality, it wasn't like that. 12 years ago, he told a lie, and now he and everyone were creating today to explain that lie. About 10 minutes before she appeared in the past, he had stood on the bridge waiting for her, always secretly watching and searching for her everywhere in the school, like the basketball court, the library, the cafeteria, and the music room. However, because he carried many secrets and pressures, he was forced to hide his feelings and bury them deep for many years, only to be able to tell the truth now. He decided not to continue missing out on his love anymore. He expressed that throughout 10 years, 20 years, or even the coming decades, he wanted to spend all his time loving and protecting Yu. Finally, he asked her if she would agree to marry him. Yu was incredibly moved, burst into tears of happiness, and nodded yes immediately. Both hugged each other tight in overwhelming joy. The next day, both were eager to change clothes, to take photos, and do the marriage registration procedure right on the spot, unable to hide their sweetness and happiness. That night, the newlyweds officially started their married life. After cutting the wedding cake together, Yu wanted to watch a movie to set the mood. Susong initially thought she would choose a romantic love story, but in the end, she turned on a horror movie, right when a thunderstorm broke out outside, making her terrified and hug him tight. In the suggestive atmosphere, while it was raining outside, both Susong and Yu couldn't hold back their emotions, sharing a passionate wedding night together. The next morning, Susong woke up in a sweet mood after the wedding night and prepared to go to the company to work as usual. When he just stepped into the office, all the employees simultaneously welcomed him, fired confetti, and congratulated the big boss for quitting being single. Everyone also happily crowded around asking for wedding candy, making the whole office lively. However, in the middle of the happy atmosphere, an employee suddenly handed him an envelope sent from the post office. This letter was originally sent to his deceased father, so the post office forwarded it to his address. Holding the letter in his hand, the guy frowned in confusion, not knowing what was waiting for him inside. At the publishing house, Shanyu was trying hard to promote a new writer, wanting to sign the contract immediately. However, this effort faced harsh opposition from the female chief boss, who thought that investing in an unknown person was too risky in an era that needs media power. Even though Shanyu used Yu's brilliant success in the past as proof that real gold doesn't fear fire, the boss still kept a rigid view. The confrontation reached its peak when the boss gave an ultimatum. Shanyu must choose between giving up the new author or submitting her resignation. Shanyu was incredibly upset and immediately offered to resign. That night, she went home and shared everything with Lu Mao. He immediately encouraged and comforted her, making the worries in her vanish. After thinking it through, she decided not to quit anymore, but to fight the superior to the end. Knowing the chief boss liked handsome guys, the next day she asked Yu to help her meet Li Can, and then invited the boss over. Sure enough, as soon as she saw the handsome guy, the boss was incredibly excited. Taking that chance, Shanyu proposed signing the contract with a new writer again, and the boss happily agreed. In the quiet space of the office, Susong was stunned when reading the letter from his late father, revealing heartbreaking secrets from the past 12 years. It turned out his father's coldness and decision to divorce years ago was only a painful act to hide a terminal heart disease, in order to protect his wife and children from the pain of watching him die. Even the fact that he once harshly opposed him following the law career also came from a father's heart, fearing his son would have to face the dangers and dark sides of the legal industry. Those heartless scoldings years ago were actually a silent sacrifice so that he could have a peaceful life. Facing the late truth, Susong couldn't hold back his tears when realizing the vast love and pride that his father always had for him. Even though he didn't live to see the day he was happy in his wedding. The truth in the letter was like a fatal blow, completely knocking down the wall of logic and pride that Susong had for so long. A whole life of striving for success to prove the unfaithful father was wrong. Now he was stunned to realize he had lived in misplaced resentment for over a decade. A feeling of regret and heartache surged fiercely when he understood that behind the heartlessness years ago was a great fatherly love, a silent sacrifice so extreme by the father to protect peace for him. In the middle of the large office, the lawyer, who was always cold and strong, now completely broke down, shattered in late tears and ultimate pain. The girl Mingyan, who used to give Ruanyu a hard time, has now officially turned over a new leaf. After spending time abroad for treatment, the first thing she did when she got back was go straight to the film set to find Ruanyu and apologize. No longer arrogant or bitter, Mingyan admitted that in the past, she was too cowardly and stubborn, chasing after a forced relationship. Now she has realized the truth, seeing that the world out there is huge, and there's no reason to throw herself at someone who doesn't love her. Seeing her sincere apology, Ruanyu generously let it go. Just then, Susong arrived to pick her up with a massive bouquet of flowers. Lu Mao also brought flowers to pick up Shanyu. The next day, the newlyweds went back to visit their old high school. Their main goal was to attend a parent-teacher meeting for those two comedy kings, the rebellious little brother Zhao Yi and the little sister Susher. It turns out Susher has a crush on Zhao Yi lately, and thanks to their cute puppy love, both of their grades have skyrocketed. The teachers thought the two were just helping each other study, but they were actually flirting like crazy. Ruanyu noticed it and encouraged her little sister to just text him and make it official. While waiting for the kids, Ruanyu dragged Susong to hide in the old-school piano room. There, Ruanyu shared that she used to hide a love letter here, dreaming of getting into the same university as Susong. Actually, Susong knew everything from the start. Back then, he was the one who borrowed a phone and used a fake name to trick Ruanyu into the piano room, and he even purposely cleared the messages to make it look like an accident, just so he could sneak a peek at her love letter. After hearing that, Ruanyu was speechless, calling her husband a childish and calculating guy. And then their big day finally arrived. But taking the beauty home wasn't going to be an easy task. As soon as the groom's side arrived at the door, they were blocked by the bridesmaids led by Shanyu. She required Susong to pass a brain test to pick up the bride. For every wrong answer, he had to do 30 push-ups. Susong gave a confident smirk, thinking a few questions would stop a genius. The first question was a warm-up, asking about the eaves where they both hid from the rain when they were students. Susong answered correctly right away. However, the bridesmaids raised the difficulty with a second question about a math problem they solved together in the math office years ago. The question confused the groom's side because the memory was so old that no one remembered the details, and even Susher couldn't answer. But Susong amazed everyone by calmly giving the right answer, even remembering the solution and the advanced results. His confidence and amazing memory made the groom's family super impressed. The third question, the final boss with hell-level difficulty, was asked, how many floor tiles were there from the back door to the front door of the classroom in their final year? As soon as the question was finished, the whole place went silent. Even Ruanyu, who was eavesdropping in the room, was stunned because she didn't know the answer herself. The groom's side groaned, thinking it was an impossible question because no one would count every tile in the past like that. The bridesmaids started a countdown, making the air even more tense, and everyone thought Susong would definitely have to do push-ups. But right at the most hopeless moment, Susong calmly gave the answer. 23 tiles. The crowd was shocked. Then they checked and found out the answer was perfectly correct. It turns out that number wasn't a lucky guess. During the years he secretly loved her, Susong had quietly walked along the hallway of the girl he liked, looking down and counting every tile to remember her and ease his longing. That truth made everyone amazed at how deep his love was. After that shocking answer, the bride's side was totally convinced and opened the door for the groom to pick up the bride. The wedding was held in an incredibly romantic setting. From students who once walked side by side in uniforms, they now wore gorgeous wedding clothes to enter the ceremony together. In a moving moment, both mothers couldn't hold back their tears as they gave their blessings, making the whole room feel sacred and warm. The male MC formally announced that their journey had gone through all 4 seasons, passing each other in summer, reuniting in autumn, understanding in winter, and falling in love in spring. Now, they returned to the brightest summer to step into their vows together. Susong held Ruanyu's hand tight, with eyes full of love looking at the girl who had taken up his entire youth. Both said I do together, officially becoming husband and wife. Youth memories came rushing back. The secret kiss in the rain, sticky notes on the desks, the stray cat they cared for together, and secret looks in a library. Despite many misunderstandings and distances over 10 years, fate finally brought them back together. With a sweet kiss at the ceremony, a long journey of a secret crush ended, opening up their happy marriage. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to wait for the newest movies.